As long as there have been humans, there has been hand-wringing and pearl-clutching over the next generation. 2,400 years ago, Plato wrote, "What is happening to our young people? They disrespect their elders. They disobey their parents. They ignore the law. They riot in the streets, inflamed with wild notions." And while we didn't really start naming generations until the baby boomers, some variation of the Gen Z versus millennial or whatever battle has taken place. On the surfaces, on the surface, the differences are quite obvious. Music, language, style, fashion, and cultural opinions. There's, of course, major world events and news like wars or revolts or protests or pandemics that take a powerful role in shaping each generation's personality. But I would argue that the most powerful catalyst for generational shifts is technology. We tend to divide generations by years. Every 15 to 20 marks a new generation. But I would also say that new developments in technology are what really shape us. It would be hard to convince me otherwise that the most important invention in the common era isn't the printing press. The steam engine, the cotton gin, the electric light, factory farming, these are all enormous cultural shifts in technology. And yes, of course, the nuclear bomb too. But the printing press, like the internet, like the television, redistributed information and thus redistributed power. And information is what creates music, news, fashion, language, and cultural opinions, the surface level tectonic shifts between generations. In the 20th century, we developed the idea of the media virus. Marshall McLuhan called media imagery virulent. In the early 90s, Douglas Rushkoff coined media virus and viral media. Thomas Mafolo refined that idea to include a kind of collective consciousness when information is shared on a vast scale. Things catch on more quickly now than they ever have before. In Gore Verbinski's 2002 American remake of the Japanese Ring, we are on the precipice in this year of flat-screen HD TVs, streaming media, and Web 2.0. So there's something quaint about all these CRT TVs playing live broadcasts of network television. Even the VHS tape in the era of DVDs is an ancient 20th century artifact. But still, even though the movie is squarely in the correct time period in which it was filmed, it seems like it has kind of a futurist understanding about this generational divide between late Gen Xer Rachel and her early Gen Z son, Aiden. And that is going to be virality, the power of a people to spread disruptive ideas, whether for justice or for pain. Hi, Cecil.
Hi, Jeffrey.
What was the last thing you remember watching on a VHS tape?
Oh, damn. I don't know if it's like the last thing I watched, but this is probably it. When I lived in Washington, D.C., my favorite video store was going out of business and was selling every VHS tape in the store for $1.
Mm-hmm.
So I went in and I bought like 25 VHS tapes. Um, God, what I'm trying, I'm really digging through the barrel here.
Uh-huh.
Because this is actually around when The Ring was filmed. This is like around 2002. So you can imagine this is when video stores were going out of business. And this wasn't a Blockbuster. This was like a awesome locally owned VHS store that I fucking loved for the years that I lived in DC. Um, the only thing I remember watching over and over and over was a MTV Liquid Television compilation
Oh,
tape.
dope.
Yeah.
That's really incredible.
And then I just had these 20 or so VHS tapes that I think followed me around during a time in my life when I was moving a lot, but I had a TV VCR combo. So it was like the TV VCR combo and the VHS tapes were with me for at least 4 different moves.
Mm-hmm. I had the TV VCR combo as well when I remember in the late 90s moving to an apartment on my own, and I bought myself a TV and I made sure it had the VCR combo
Oh,
on it.
absolutely.
And I didn't really own any videotapes per se. I would rent them, of course.
Hmm.
not a lot of storage space in my studio apartment
Sure.
in
Yeah.
Dallas. But I do remember one of the last things I watched because when I moved later, I bought a DVD player, and not owning VHS tapes, I never went back to rent them after that. But I think the last thing I watched on VHS was Malcolm X,
Oh,
was
wow.
Spike
Okay.
Lee's X. And that would have been in like 1998 or
Oh, wow.
1999. I just had never seen it. Was like, I'm gonna rent this fucking movie.
Sure.
And yeah, I feel like that was a good one to go out on.
Yeah.
So that seems rock solid. A very
Was it
different
the
film.
was it the like two
Uh-huh.
VHS? Yep.
Yep.
The double book.
Absolutely. I went back and re-listened to our previous episode on Ringu
Oh,
on
look at you.
I know. I didn't go back and rewatch the movie. I just went back and listened to it was a Patreon bonus episode. So Patreon
Yeah,
only
yeah.
$5 a month. You get access to all of our 50 plus previous episodes, and you can go listen to that if you would like to do that. But when I had watched that movie for this show, it was kind of in our first year or two of doing this podcast. I had remembered seeing The Ring in maybe like 2005 or 6 on DVD. And but I didn't remember it as well as I thought I had when we covered the Japanese Ring, because I was thinking it was almost like shot for shot remake, and it is incredibly different in terms of its plot. And also, but I did remember the ending is totally different tonally.
Oh, yeah.
And the Japanese film, there's a little bit of humor to it, like really dark humor.
Okay.
I, I I won't spoil it here because if you haven't watched it, we're here to spoil this movie and not the other one. But
Smart.
but we can talk about where this one goes. This one is it was interesting. I don't know. Did you have any thoughts on how this related to the original? We can talk about that right away.
I it's so hard because I've seen this version more
Hmm.
because it was kind of ubiquitous.
Yeah.
Like it was everywhere in the early 2000s. And I've seen this movie like quite a bit. It's been a while, but it's one of those movies where like the pacing is so good.
Hmm.
Like it's real, we a few weeks ago we had the procedural on the dice, and I was like, really, the reason why this movie is so like engaging is because of its procedural elements.
Yeah.
And I think that's where like a lot of the stuff that was in the Japanese version kind of like didn't really fit into that. Like I remember a lot of psychic stuff happening in the Japanese version that we don't really get in this one.
Yeah.
This one's really more about the hunt, the chase, the information, the paper chase.
Yeah. It's more into it gets really into the journalistic techniques
Yeah.
that people use. So it does have it's spooky noir is what it
Yeah.
is. And this one this movie to me felt more stylized as a noir type of movie. It has it's rainy, it's dark, it's
That green
bleak.
tone from the
Oh.
very beginning, like that DreamWorks logo, you get a
Uh-huh.
little ring, 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 little flicker of the ring, and you notice already it is like this entire movie is shaded sickly green.
Yeah. Yeah, it's a little bit like scummy pond water type of
Yeah.
color on it. Well, let's start at the beginning. One, I noted down the twitchy VHS look
Hmm.
of the DreamWorks logo. Fantastic. Always love the fucking with your
I know,
studio
right?
logo at the beginning.
Yes, absolutely.
One of my favorite just bits in tiny bits in any movie is into the Spider-Verse film when they do the I think it's Universal Artists logo, and it's all the
Mhm.
different variations flashing all at once is really
Oh,
fun.
nice, nice.
All right, so we're gonna meet Katie and Becca, teenage girls, just hanging out in the bedroom watching
It's on a Saturday night or
TV.
whatever. And they're in their Japanese schoolgirl uniforms.
This so themes in this movie, obviously water, heavy,
Oh, yeah.
visual theme throughout this whole
Water and
film.
electricity.
Hmm. But also, this movie is strongly bookended by themes of what the virus, media virus,
Yeah.
does to our minds. And it
Yeah.
opens with Katie talking about, have you heard about the studies done about all the TV waves and TV towers? All those, they're like frying our brains. It's such a conspiracy. I'm like,
Yeah. You know how many TVs there are?
you are proto QAnon, this
I know, right?
5G sort of thing.
Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah. Just wait till your cell phone, has a screen to it.
And then Becca's like, have you heard about the tape that kills you in 7 days? Katie says, I watched it. Me and Josh watched it. Oh, scandalous. She's dating
Josh,
Josh
you're
from a
hanging out with
different
Josh?
school.
Oh my goodness.
And me and Josh and two other friends rented a cabin in the mountains last
Mhm.
weekend.
Because they wanted to record a football game?
But the logic here is a little off.
Okay, sure.
But yeah, I guess the idea is that they were doing mountain stuff, and while they were out, the boys were going to VHS
Yes.
record whatever bowl game was on that day. But when they got home, something else was on that tape they tried to record it on.
Oh no.
And they all watched the tape. And she said, and then it's been 7 days since then. And then Katie starts
I
choking.
know.
But it's all just in fun.
No, silly.
We get a lot of fake outs here, like the fake, she starts choking, like, oh no, she's dying.
Yeah.
Then the phone rings, she gets
The phone
scared.
ring, yeah, because she says once you watch the tape, the phone will ring and it's a little girl's voice saying you're gonna die in 7 days.
Mhm.
The phone rings.
And then the phone rings, but it's just mom.
Ah, we get we
Uh,
get the we get the refrigerator cabinet fake out. One of my
uh-huh,
favorite horror movie tropes of refrigerator slash medicine cabinet.
uh-huh.
If it's a tight shot of somebody going into the fridge, there's going to be something scary on the other side, but there's not.
No. All these fake outs were just it's so wound tight American
Yeah,
horror style.
yeah.
But then it's then the TV just turns itself on in the
Uh-uh.
living room.
No.
Becca, stop fucking around.
No,
What's
my
that? Don't do
God.
that.
But the remote's sitting there right there on the chair.
And Becca's nowhere in sight, so she turns it off, but it turns back on.
Mm-mm.
And then
I
she
don't like it.
gets up close to the TV to reach behind it to unplug it, but then she sees something dart past her behind her in the
I know.
reflection.
It's like, okay, here's the thing.
Uh-huh.
I think it's interesting in your intro, you talked about the change from like the fat TVs to the thin TVs.
Uh-huh.
And I think in a weird way, this movie works better because TVs were fatter back then.
Yeah,
So
agreed.
TVs were like a box and things came out of a box
Yeah.
as opposed to a screen, which is a flat, almost more mirror, like the image of the TV, what we know as a TV from, I think you and I are the generation where like the remote control became more and better. Like it
Yes.
used to be get up and claim like chunk, 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 chunk. My parents actually still had one of those TVs that
Uh-huh.
never worked the entire time I was alive. But then it became the remote control. And then because the cable television became more widespread. But I think this idea of the television as a box, like a Punch and Judy style theater
Yeah.
box, is so much scarier because it has depth to it. So something coming out of a box to me is much scarier than something coming out of a screen, no matter how big or small that screen is.
I think that's such a great point, and it's just every muscle in my body I have to keep under control not to turn this into like media analytics 301. But this movie has so much to do with technology and its effect on us. But you're right, the box versus the flat screen. And I think it's really interesting when we talk about a nickname given to the television set was the idiot box.
Yeah.
And which it sort of implies that it is a box, it's a device that turns us into idiots. It programs us. Douglas
Yeah.
Rushkoff, who I mentioned in the intro, talked about they deliberately call it programming. Like it's the
Yeah, yeah,
that
yeah,
that
yeah, yeah.
semantic point of you are being programmed by the television to schedule your day.
Yeah.
And then you talk about a nickname given to our current devices by the TV show is Black Mirror,
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
which implies not that the screen is doing it to us, that we are doing it to
To
ourselves. It is a
ourselves.
mirror of us.
Yeah, we're being reflected through a mirror darkly.
Yeah, absolutely. But you're totally right. The idea that something comes out of the box is really, I think, important. That doesn't quite work. The flat screen feels more like a portal and less like a
Yeah.
physical object.
Yeah. And the other thing that so you're going off on media analytics. For me, where I went after watching this movie was the history of the chain letter and the
Mm-hmm.
idea of gossip, the
Yes.
idea of send this X to three people, seven people, and good things will happen. If you break the chain, bad things will happen. And the idea of gossip and word of mouth that happens throughout this movie, which again doesn't disappear in our, iPhone era. It just changes very differently because of the speed at which things are shown and what you can show and pass on.
I think
Because
it's
essentially, Samara is a Ponzi scheme.
yeah, yeah. She's do you remember like early like in the 90s when we started getting email that like your inbox
Hmm.
started getting flooded with like people you knew and trusted your own age
Yeah.
forwarding chain emails to you, being like, you have
It
to
was
pass this
emails
on.
and Facebook
Yeah, Facebook was big too.
was a big one of like send this to 10 people and you'll get $1,000 in the next 10 days.
Yep. And we still have people attempting that sort of thing. You always see the uh, uh like this post if you disagree, retweet if you
Hmm. Hmm.
whatever. I don't know, but it's trying to get clicks. It's trying to get
Sure.
attention on whatever idea you have, and I don't think you can disconnect the idea of our tendency toward chain letter or spreading of a virus
Yeah.
to the way in which technology enables it. And yeah, you're 100% correct.
Because like as Rachel goes on her hunt for information, she gets a lot of stuff out of the library. I love a horror movie where the
Uh-huh.
protagonist goes to the library, and she gets a lot of stuff out of archives, things like that, because she's a news reporter, so she has access to technology that honestly most people didn't have access to in 2002.
No.
But the big breaks in her case are made from word of mouth gossip. The
Yeah.
doctor on the island, the father,
Yeah.
like it's really the like tell me what's in between the lines.
Hmm.
The teenagers whispering about the boyfriend from another, the girl who's like, you weren't supposed to tell him about Josh. Josh is a secret. It's the spilling of secrets
Yeah.
is like the dark heart of this movie.
Totally agreed. And I think it's still true to this day, even though so much more information is at our fingertips than ever before. It's still a little janky, what
Yeah.
information you do have, because it forces you to still have to piece together that information in a useful way. And you're right. Just going to somebody and talking to them is
Yeah.
probably it not probably, it is the best way to get real information about what's going on.
And I think that we spend so much more time vetting information that we
Mhm.
read because we don't have context clues of talking to people and being
Yeah.
like, they said this, but I didn't trust them when they said it, or I believe them
Yep.
when they said it because I was physically there watching them tell the thing rather than somebody online said something.
Uh-huh.
Is it true? Is it not?
Well, poor Katie is done for. She goes upstairs, and it's really interesting the way in which people get isolated and alone when these moments happen. It almost
Yeah.
like you entered a different dimension. It's almost
Yeah.
like less like Samara came into your world than she dragged you into hers.
Yeah.
Because Becca is no longer responding to her.
She's not in the room.
The lights are
Sh
all out. There's water just pouring out from beneath the door of her bedroom. And when she opens that door, the TV in her room is on, and there is a creepy
It's
fucking
the
face
well.
there. Yeah, it's the well. And then it just quick flash to Katie's face, and she kind of starts CGI freaking out. Her face
Yeah.
starts distorting. Now let's meet Rachel.
This
So,
is a great, I
okay.
love this introduction of a character because we don't meet Rachel first. We actually meet Aiden, right?
Yep, we
And
do.
Aiden is like, we learn so much about these, our main characters, kind of through like context clues. So Aiden is like, teacher says like, oh, your mom will be here. She's like, yeah, I don't care.
Hmm.
Okay, so we're like, okay, this kid is way too self-sufficient for his age.
Uh-huh.
And then Rachel comes in and she's like laying into her editor on the phone. So we get a sense of the no nonsense. I don't have time for your bullshit. Kind of almost smart, fast talking dame of film noirs, the sort of Joan Crawfords of films past.
Hmm. Yeah, we already have a sense that she's wrapped up in her own world. She kind of believes Aiden to be capable of handling himself,
Right.
which is, I think, how a lot of Gen Xers grew up,
Yeah.
actually, in that
Like he knows I'm open to talk about his feelings.
he knows I love him. He can come to me and ask for anything.
Yeah.
This conversation is incredible because it's the teacher staying after because Rachel's late to pick Aiden up. Aiden's doing his work. He's fine. The teacher's like, I wanted to talk to you about Aiden because I know that his cousin just died, so
Yeah.
implying they were related to Katie. Katie was babysitting Aiden all the time, apparently, like
I know
like
two or three times a
two or three
week.
times a week, which I'm like, oh, that implies
Like,
how much mom has gone as well.
yeah, yeah, yeah.
And he was very, very close to Katie. And that's when Rachel says, well, he knows I'm here. He doesn't have, if he doesn't want to talk, he'll process it in his own way. And she's like, well, he does process it in his own way. Here's some creepy fucking child drawings.
Oh my God. The creepy children drawings in horror movies.
Awesome.
And
The,
what I like about this is that it's it's not demonic creepy. It's like kind of how a child would process death, like
yeah,
person underground. I don't know. That's sort of it. But
yeah.
it's not like um evil or demonic. Like we get the sense from Aiden he's more psychic,
Hmm.
intuitive rather than like possessed, which I think is a really like we have to have that divide. Like this is not, sinister or something like that. We're like, oh, this kid is the demon's working on him.
Yeah.
He's just a little more perceptive than mom or
And I
dad.
think it's important to note that in the 4 year span between the Japanese version and this American version happened The
The Sixth
Sixth
Sense.
Sense.
Oh my
So
God.
I
Yeah.
definitely feel studio notes all over Aiden's
Yes.
character to be
Yes.
like Haley Joel Osment in The
Yep.
Sixth Sense. He kind
Hmm.
of looks like him. He's got a
Yep.
similar haircut. He's got a same type of vibe. He does he lays out his mother's funeral
Yep.
gown for her. But yeah, he's definitely got that vibe. I want to say I appreciate this creepy drawing trope because one of the things that's annoying about that trope is how parents see their kids crazy fucking drawing that shows like an eight-headed beast with spider
Yeah.
fangs
Uh-huh.
and it's like devouring the head of a goat or something. And they're like,
Uh-huh.
kids will be kids.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
And in this one, he's drawn a girl laying underground. And you very much could imply as a parent, well, he knows that we bury the dead.
Yeah.
He's drawing Katie. But
That makes sense.
knowing what we know about where this movie is going to go, when you look at the drawings, you realize he's drawn water. He's drawn like
Oh,
water
gotcha.
droplets and
Yeah.
water elements around it. So he's drawing
It's
Samara in the
Samara.
well, not Katie buried.
Oops.
The other thing that the teacher indicates, she said, wait, did you say Katie died 3 days ago? He drew these last week.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Okay, so they go to the funeral. Rachel's sister is beside herself, of course, because her
Yeah.
teen daughter is dead. And not just dead, but like she says, I have been on fucking Ask Jeeves. I've been to the medical
Yeah, yeah,
library.
yeah.
I've asked the doctor. There is no case of a 16-year-old's heart just fucking stopping and just dead. No toxins in her blood.
Yeah.
Um, she's like, Rachel, you're a journalist. This is what you do. You help
Can
me
you
find
figure
out what
this out for
happened.
me?
Yeah.
And I found her. And I got to tell you, Jeffrey, when this jump scare of
Oh.
the I found her face
Uh-huh.
in the theaters, this was like monumental because in that opening sequence, we get the chase and we get the kind of, we know that, she's being attacked, but we don't see the aftermath. And
Mm-hmm.
this terrified
Mm-hmm.
everyone. I think this, the sort of the slack-jawed, yellow-eyed, looked like somebody has been sucked dry reveal.
Yeah.
This was nightmare fuel for like a decade.
When I told you I watched this movie, like at the heart of me not wanting to watch horror movies.
Oh yeah.
But yeah, this
Is this
scene
one of the
really,
reasons why you're
yeah. Oh,
like,
this scene
I don't
really
like it?
fucked me up. I could not get this image out of my head for the longest time. And I was too afraid to ever like Google the ring or anything. Cause I was like, I don't want to see that face.
Yeah. I think it's also what surrounds it. Like it's super scary, but
Uh-huh.
it's also what's like where the plot is going. Like we're in a very quiet, somber funeral wake kind of atmosphere to sort of like throw a jump scare in the middle of, exposition is just mean, honestly.
It is, but so effective. I think it was just a masterful use of the
Yeah.
out of nowhere jump scare, which I don't
Yeah. Yeah.
always
Yeah.
love. We also learned that Becca, her friend, Katie's friend, is in a mental hospital.
Well, that's not good.
And Rachel starts learning this. She goes out and she sees all the teens outside in
Yeah.
New
She's on the
Smokin'.
case.
So she goes out to get a smoke and talk to the teens. And she's learning all these secrets about, oh, Katie was dating Josh, but no one really knew about it. And then this this boy, Kellen, chimes in with, they watched the tape. All four of those
Oh,
kids, they watched the tape. And Josh, he died that same night. They're all four dead.
dead now.
Um, supposedly Josh killed himself
Uh-huh.
was the story.
And the other two died in a motorcycle accident.
Hmm.
So all very plausible.
Yeah,
Like
totally.
or more plausible than, she had a heart attack in her closet.
Yes. So Aiden, meanwhile, while this funeral is happening, he kind of sees a vision of Katie running upstairs, and he follows after, and he just goes and stares at the empty
No,
television. There's a
no.
Samara seems to be running
Uh-uh.
behind him in the reflection, and when I love it so much because Rachel finally finds him, comes in, and he's just Blair Witching in the corner staring
Oh,
at
yeah.
this TV. By
Yeah.
the way, I just wanted to tell a brief story the other day. So I live on the fourth floor, and it's just like a single zigzag staircase down to the first. And so I was getting to my second floor neighbor's front door, and I saw her coming up the ground floor stairs, and so I just
Okay.
paused for a second to
Mhm.
let her in because the door is right there. And so I just paused and was waiting for a second, and she didn't ever see me. And so as she's coming up to the top of the stairs, like she just got startled. And I was like,
Oh,
"Oh,
sure.
I'm so sorry. I was just paused to let you through." And she's like, "I just didn't expect to see somebody just like standing there." I'm like, "Yeah, and I said out loud to a complete stranger, I'm sorry for Blair Witching over in this corner here."
You have officially verbed the noun.
I did. I verbed the noun, and she didn't laugh. She just went inside, and so I have
Oh,
effectively alienated all of my neighbors now.
you should now do it to her on the regular. Just start hanging out in that spot.
Oh, good Lord. So she okay, let me pause for a second. Let me get the thing. While Rachel is in this room, she sees like a scrapbook photo album that Katie had made. And all these faces of cutouts from magazines have been scratched through.
Yeah. In a very ritualistic style way.
Yeah.
There's, this is I find a really interesting thing that is throughout horror movies, through some horror movies, which is the idea of auto drawing, the
Hmm.
idea of you kind of draw and draw and draw or auto writing, and the spirits will talk to you through and they'll sort of guide your hand. And I think that's really fascinating that they've sort of clued into this.
Yeah, that's
And the
interesting.
way they present this over the course of the movie, I think is really interesting.
She finds in the scrapbook like a little receipt for, oh, they had dropped off photos at the 1 hour photo processing
Yep.
place at the mall. So she heads to downtown Seattle and picks up these photos, and look, photos of them
Okay, here they are,
all
checking into the
at the
cabin, the
cabin,
Mountain Inn, whatever, Shady Pines or whatever
Shelter
it's
Mountain
called,
Inn. Yep.
Shelter Mountain. Oh, here's them being teenagers. We have an establishing shot of them in front of the cabin,
Hmm.
and then oh, fucked up faces.
Yep. And
I gotta say, this is so much scarier for you younger listeners. This is so much scarier in 2002 than I think it might be now
correct.
because of the digital ability to Photoshop stuff.
Hmm.
Like everybody has an app on their phone that they can kind of do this. This was freaky deaky shit
Yeah.
back in the day because yes, you had digital cameras, but most people didn't have Photoshop was like hundreds of dollars
Yeah.
and only explainable to people who were professionals.
And you would only see it in digital computer format, like on a JPEG,
Yeah.
rather than on a printed film photo
Yeah.
print. Yeah.
And the fact that it's film means that this is kind of like impossible slash like it means that it was melted. Like something must be wrong with the negative
Yeah.
or manipulated at the negative level.
Yeah. It's funny. There's a scene later where Noah, who we'll meet in a second, is at the grocery store. He buys a bag of groceries and a pack of smokes for $15.33.
Oh my God.
So he is at the grocery store, but he looks up at the CCTV screen in the store, and he can see his own face is distorted while the clerk's is not.
Yeah.
And it made, in that moment, I thought about what you just mentioned, which was we have apps that put filters on your face all the time now.
Yeah.
And I just wondered, did Snapchat ever make a I saw the ring filter?
Oh my God. I wish.
If they haven't and you work at Snapchat, please ask them to do so.
Yes, please do. That tones everything green.
Yep, green videotape style.
Yeah, green videotape adds the like VHS skip video.
Uh-huh.
And melty faces your face.
Okay, so now let's go to the Shelter Mountain Inn, she thinks.
Yeah.
And she notices there's like a little video library because this doofy clerk who's trying to do magic tricks or whatever he points out that because they don't get good phone reception up here in the mountains and television reception,
Yeah, they don't have good cable reception.
they all have VCRs in every room, and he has this shitty video library of hand-me-down cassettes.
I love
And
that instantly she knows which videotape it is.
yeah, it's the one that's just unlabeled out of a box.
And I think we all know cursed video.
Yes.
Like if a video cassette was important enough, like okay, so back in the day in my house, we always had like three blank cassettes in rotation that were the like copy over stuff to watch on TV, recorded on TV. We might watch it a few times, but it wasn't precious,
Yeah.
right? And those were the like rewritable ones. But if it was important, if it was The Wonderful World of Disney, whatever movie was on that Monday night or whatever that you wanted to keep, you had to like make you'd peel the little sticker off and you'd write it down. And sometimes you got two or three things on that tape.
Hmm.
But that was the like important shit. So like the idea of getting a blank videotape could be fucking anything.
Is such a wild card of what that could be. Well, she takes this tape, she rents cabin number 12,
Yep.
just like those kids did, and she goes and watches this tape. I remember from listening to our previous episode that in the Japanese version of this movie, we were talking, you and I, in that previous episode about that movie, we're talking about how this looks like a student art house film. And it's
Yes.
very funny because in this version, we'll get Noah commenting on this is very student art house film
Yes.
sort of thing.
Yes.
But what this movie does that's so different is it takes all of this imagery, like a good noir
Hmm.
fiction mystery story will do. All of these images come back. It's
Yeah.
about these are checkpoints for the script. These are the things Rachel has to see to solve the mystery.
Yeah. And if I remember correctly, there's more things that will be explained in this version than in Ringu. It's more
Absolutely.
like creepy avant-garde images. Like I think one of the ones that remains, if I remember correctly, is the sort of like shot of maggots
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
wriggling and writhing, and then it cuts to a shot of bodies in mud
Mm-hmm.
wriggling and like that's not explained.
Mm-mm.
That has nothing to do with the plot. They kept it in because it's an awesome image
Yeah.
splice. But it's really true. Like the ladder, the chair, a lot of these things, the nails,
The bloody water, which we'll get to,
the
and
bloody water. A lot of these things are, like you said, they're more coded, and we're like, oh, okay, oh, found it, found the Easter egg, found that one, found that
yeah,
one.
the man in the window,
Yeah.
and yep, all of that. And then the videotape ends, phone rings, she picks it up, little girl's voice goes, 7 days.
Oh no.
To
Like
what?
to renew my AAA
That's right.
card.
I need more clarification. Okay, Thursday, day one, we get the
I
title
love
card.
it.
They put a clock on it.
Yes.
Let's
Give me
do
a
it.
countdown.
I think this is. I love the way that they did this. I'm a little suspicious, or not. I'm a little wary anytime a movie starts using like title cards to show you the timestamp.
Yeah.
And I think about Gross Indecencies, The Three Trials of Oscar Wilde, which was a big
Okay.
Broadway play back in the 90s, I believe.
Yeah.
Well, when you title your play The Three Trials of Oscar Wilde,
Sure.
and I am a full hour and 45 minutes into this, and
And
we
you've
are
not
on
even gotten to
it's
trial number
trial
two.
one. And I'm like,
Uh-oh.
okay, you just call it Gross Indecencies. Because now I'm aware that I got to sit
Because
through
you're
three of these
waiting for,
fuckers.
yeah, like you would expect it to be evenly spaced.
But in this movie, we get day one, scene, 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 day two, scene, day three,
Yeah.
scene, scene, day four, scene, scene, day five. And then by the time we get the longer day, we've already built up the momentum. As you said, this
Yeah.
movie has a pace that is undeniably very good.
Yeah. And it's also like it makes sense that earlier on in the week, kind of in the disbelief phase
Uh huh.
or the not understanding phase, you only get a clue a day.
Mm-hmm.
Like the breakthroughs are not going to happen more frequently and more rapidly until later when you're starting to really piece the puzzle together. And I love that by we get to that point, like Rachel even says, she's like, I'm on day 6, man. You got to go. She starts to like, you got to go do this. I got to do this. There's a clock that is ticking for me. We
Yeah.
can't hang out together. We need to divide and conquer,
Yeah.
which in horror movies is usually the worst thing you can do. But in this is like the smartest thing.
Yeah. Absolutely. It absolutely is. And I love the pacing. I love what they've done with that. It's fantastic. So day one, Thursday, she is with Noah, which this movie is going to kind of tease out the relationships here. So we know
Yeah.
Rachel has a son, Aiden,
Yeah.
and then she's got this pal, very handsome pal, Noah,
Yeah.
who is basically works in video production.
Yeah.
And he's like, just show me the tape. I don't know. I want to see what this is. She's like, I don't think you should watch it. And she is already on, I think this is a cursed videotape. I think it is
Yeah.
killing people. And he's like, that's not how it works.
That's
Give
not
me the
real.
fucking tape. And so she makes him a copy of the tape, right? That's how
She makes, yes, she makes the
yes.
copy and then shows him the copy. And I
Yeah.
love this scene because it's very like showing without telling in that he's like, all right, I'm gonna watch the tape. And one, everybody stop watching your TV 6 inches from the screen.
Yeah.
Everyone stop this, please, because everyone does it in this fucking movie. But it's a real thing, kind of like of when you had to put a physical piece of media into a box, you were there in front, like uncomfortably close to the box when the thing started.
Uh-huh.
But so I think that like instinctively I'll go too close. You're too close to the thing.
Yeah.
But I love the fact that Rachel just goes outside. We don't watch the scary thing again. We don't watch the art film again. And what we actually get is like quiet, urban, and we get a kind of not rear, rear view, no, rear
Yeah.
window thing of Rachel looking at these like Seattle skyscrapers of all the different ways people are engaged with their TV or not engaged with their
Mm-hmm.
TV on. This idea that what better way to spread a viral message of evil and destruction
Yeah.
than through this innocuous thing that's in everybody's home that you eat in front of, that you put your kids in front of, that you turn on and ignore.
Yeah. Yeah, if you could spread that to every screen in these
Yeah.
these high rises, yeah, you could murder whole populations of people. It is a weapon of mass destruction here.
But it's not like no character says it. It's just sort of laid out there for you
Hmm.
to
Yeah.
intuit and find.
I think I'm getting some of this out of order because it's about the copy she makes for him.
Yes.
Because twist at the ending is for the ending is that in fact she is spared not because she solved the mystery and cared for this girl.
Yes.
She is spared because she made a copy. So now the previous version is defunct.
Well, I think
Isn't
it's
that how
two
that
things.
works?
I think it's two things, actually. I think you've got to make a copy and you've got to show it to somebody.
That's what I mean. Yeah, she made a copy and then showed it to somebody.
Because
Yes,
that's
correct.
the idea of the chain letter is like you receive the thing, you must copy it out and send it
Yes.
on, thereby ensuring somebody else sees it. Actually, it was interesting in kind of reading about chain letters, like the printing press, as you said, was the printing press and the photocopier were actually like two of the biggest times when the chain letters became really
Mm-hmm.
popular
Mm-hmm.
because all of a sudden you could just instead of handwriting a letter be like send a dime to charity, send this on to 10 people and charity gets a dime.
Yeah.
You'd be like, oh, here's 100 copies, just mail that shit out.
If you're old enough to have worked in to have a job that had a fax machine in it,
Yeah.
the fax machine was lit up all the fucking time with random shit like this.
Yeah.
So, so it's going to be about him watching the copy that she makes him. But he does take the copy. He's like, I will figure out wherever this came from. But he's going to tell her on day 2 that he's like, hey, this copy you gave me is weird because there's a control track on VHS tapes that should tell me where it came from. And both in the original and in the copy you made me, it doesn't say anything. I don't have, it should be able to tell me in the control track what made this tape.
And we've
And so,
seen a visual representation of this because when
uh
she copied it, you get one of my other favorite freaky
yes.
horror movie tropes, which is digital numbers turn into alien letters.
Uh-huh.
You get this in horror movies, you get this in demon horror movies, you get this in alien like when the digital clocks start getting all weird and wobbly,
Uh-huh.
nothing good is happening in your
No.
world.
She's at his big loft. This is so 2002 to
Oh my
have
God,
like a
that fucking
giant
loft.
loft
Well,
downtown.
the fact that he's in a giant loft downtown and the fact that he wears flip-flops
Uh-huh.
throughout much of this movie.
Yeah, he's got his Hari
Just
Maris on. He's having a great
I was
time.
like, okay, all right. Got your toes out and everything.
She meets Beth, I think is her name. This is an interesting little subplot, which as it was going on, I didn't quite understand why they included the Beth character other than romantic tension.
Yes.
But I do think I have an idea when we get to the very,
Hmm.
very end.
Uh-huh. Yeah. Okay. All right. So yes, the second part is you got to make a copy and then you got to show it to somebody. So when skip to the end, when Rachel lets Beth discover Noah's, soul-sucked body, one, on a logical point of view, it means that she's nowhere near the scene of crime, having just the day before torn up a cabin in the woods and found a body in a well, which we'll talk about the police work on that one. But it allows Beth, the sort of ex-girlfriend or the other girlfriend, to discover the tape. You want to hear something crazy interesting though?
Hmm.
There's a lot of scenes that were deleted from this. This movie's long, not gonna lie. And they deleted 2 scenes with Chris Cooper that were kind of at the very beginning, at the very end.
He's not in this movie at all, is he?
No. So originally, Rachel is working on a case about a serial killer played by Chris Cooper. And she's getting a confession, and this is the thing that she's working on. And he's this horrible guy. And so at the end of the movie, when she has to show that cursed videotape to somebody, she gives it to the serial killer.
Interesting.
But they, were screening this movie, all the notes, they're like, this movie is 2 hours and 10 minutes long. Jesus fucking Christ, you guys. So they took him off. And Chris Cooper was like, I was sad to see me go, but, I understand why they did it.
Yeah. I think they made the right choice. I like the tidiness of killing off the serial killer, but I think this opens up the movie to much bigger ideas. It sends my mind racing in all kinds of directions at the end.
And it's much more morally ambiguous. Like with the last question asked by Aiden is, what happens to the person we show this to?
And you can tell on Naomi Watts' face, that's their problem, not a my problem.
Yeah. Yeah.
So Beth, just to clarify, is hello 2002. She is the college age. She is in college studying media and is basically an intern assistant for this 32-year-old man.
I'm gonna give her generously give grad student here.
Okay, great. I will too. So, but also just your assistant. I don't care if she's your age or not. If you're 31 and your 30-year-old assistant gives you a kiss on the cheek as she comes to work, you have a bad work dynamic.
Well, and I also think it's Noah in the presence of Rachel is trying to downplay the romantic side and upplay the we just worked together side.
Good call, dude.
Yeah, no one will ever guess.
He also just sort of introduces Rachel as in like, this is a person I know.
this female who has a key to my apartment and who just is picking up Thai food for the two of us.
Not my ex-wife and mother of the son I never see.
Oh, yes.
Boom, day 3. Oh, by the way, this is when Rachel leaves, she gets annoyed by this whole situation with Beth and Noah. She goes outside. She sees a giant ladder against the back wall of this building, just like in the video. Day 3, love this scene with Becca at the mental hospital.
Yeah.
Because we just see feet shuffling and a nurse pulling like a divider wall,
like a gauze screen,
on rollers to separate Becca from the lounge area of the hospital where everyone is watching television, because Becca just cannot see screens.
Yeah, I love it.
So good.
It also just adds an air of mystery. Like, what's more interesting than something you can see, something you can barely see.
Yes.
Because she's an important, we know this is the girl who saw, quote unquote, what happened to the cousin. So this is going to be we're expecting a lot from this character. So a little bit of build up. Perfect.
Yeah. It also really, this movie does a great job of sort of exploring the notion that it's not just about a videotape that makes you die in 7 days. It's about a viral concept, one that kills you, the receiver, but also it has a circle of influence. It
Yeah,
radiates out. It's got a blast zone that harms and
like
destroys a lot of things around it.
gossip.
Yeah. And even if you're not in the direct line of fire of it and you're
Yeah,
in the
yeah, yeah,
midst of
yeah.
it, you're
You
suffering
can be
too.
affected. Yeah.
Yeah. So Rachel goes to see Becca, is trying to interview her about, I need to know how she died. And she holds Becca's hand. And in this, there is a psychic transfer of information. Becca knows, and Becca says, oh, you will know how she died. She'll show you. 4 days.
And she like takes Naomi Watts' hands and just makes four. Like she like, she
Oh,
like
yeah.
bends her fingers like, her fingers back to make so intimate and creepy.
Yeah. Rachel also, to the fun effect, when she's later back at her AV room at her newspaper, at the Post Intelligencer, I think, the Seattle PI. And I think that a real newspaper.
Is
Anyway,
that a
so
real
she,
newspaper?
I think
Because I
so.
was like, I saw that. I was like, the Intelligencer.
I
Who the
think,
fuck made up that word? That's not a word.
yep, it is the Seattle Post Intelligencer.
Intelligencer?
I know, come on, Seattle, pull it
I call
together.
bullshit on that.
I know you're
That's not a
already
word.
in shit, but calm down. She is trying to glean any information she can from this tape. And she's using tracking that Noah taught her, that you can track
Hmm.
the image back and forth within the screen to see more of it. So, two things. One, she finds a lighthouse on the edge of a frame that she's going to be able to pin down. But
Love a creepy haunted lighthouse.
there's also a fly that crawls across the
Oh,
screen in this
yes.
tape. And it's in this viewing that she realizes that's not part of the tape. It's a real fly on her screen that shows up every time.
But it like, well, the first time she sees it, it's in the movie.
Yeah.
And there's a fly, clearly in the thing. The second time, she like kind of scratches at the TV. The fly is still an image. This time, and what I love about this is that flies are so small, is that the light penetrates the body of the fly. Like the
Mm-hmm.
light from the TV shines through the fly, so it's almost impossible to tell it's a three-dimensional object or a two-dimensional object or a
Yeah.
two-dimensional image, I should say.
Yeah.
And this time, and it's great because she's like scratch, scratch, scratch. The AV person comes back and she's like, you've got a little something, and her nose is bleeding, and the fly just buzzes away.
Uh huh.
Like clue, not just go, well, all right, evil is loosed in the world, I guess. Okay. You might want to see a ghost exterminator.
Sunday, day 4, library. Two of
Oh
my
my God, I
favorite things in the
love
world.
it.
Three of my favorite things. One is your most favorite thing, giant fucking dusty tome.
I love Dusty Tone. Giant books of old images, old
Mhm.
photographs, old newspaper. Let's look at the biofiche. I
Yeah.
love it.
Thing two, I love just a general idea of people in a horror movie going to the library to do
Hmm.
research. And number three is the game GeoGuessr. Do
Oh
you know
yes, yeah, yeah,
GeoGuessr?
yeah,
Yes,
yeah,
that it
yeah, yeah,
drops you
yeah.
at a place in Google Maps and you
And
have
you're
to
like,
figure
I
out where
think
you
this
are.
is Azerbaijan.
Yep.
You
Let me
are 700
pinpoint.
miles away.
Yep. So that's what she's playing GeoGuessr like analog style here, trying to figure
Yeah,
out which Seattle area lighthouse this fucking thing is. And she finds it. Moesco Island. She also finds a news story about women restoring this lighthouse from like
hmm
25 years earlier, back in the 70s. And she recognizes one of the women from the video. Not
I
hard to
love.
identify because she's in all
Nope.
black while every
Oh
other
my
woman is in
God,
all white.
like pastels. I like. Okay. I mean, I'm not saying like Anna Morgan's a really interesting, and like this is where I think we get into the sort of the deviations between Ringu and the Ring,
Hmm.
is the sort of the mother, father, daughter triad and their relationship and who they are as characters just goes in different directions. And I'm not saying it's good or bad,
Yeah.
but this idea that Anna Morgan, which she just, Rachel discovers her name and she's a horse breeder, and then something went wrong.
Yep.
Something went terribly wrong in her life. She killed herself.
Hmm.
Horses died.
Yep.
They drowned themselves in the ocean. Anna Morgan killed herself. That's kind of all the official news
Yeah.
can report on.
And we're gonna we're gonna learn a little bit more about Rachel's gonna learn more and thus us about the connection between all of these things. But as she's learning this stuff, she looks down at her notes and realizes she has been scratching through a printout photo of Anna's face this whole time.
In the exact same, and the way that it's scratching is like a veil or long creepy Japanese ghost hair.
Uh-huh. Yep. Monday, day 5. It's nighttime. Rachel is on the phone with her sister when she starts choking violently and reaching into her mouth. Again, we have gone into the bag of horror tricks for this movie.
Yeah,
And
yeah,
they're using them all really well.
yeah.
And so it is the pulling the unending string of something out of your mouth.
Which was an image in the video,
Yep.
except from your like kind of a POV shot of just seeing like something really long.
Uh-huh.
And we all kind of know that the sort of like I mentioned the long Japanese ghost hair idea. So we think it's hair,
Mm-hmm.
but when a fucking diode is it whatever like an
Yeah.
electronic
Mm-mm.
this is where I think it's really interesting. And Naomi Watts is like one of my favorite actors. Like she is one of the best to be sure. Um, because she sells this. Like she looks like she is gagging on that.
Uh-huh.
And I think it's really amazing when an actress who is as beautiful as she is not afraid to get ugly.
Yeah.
Like I was looking at some of the other actors that were offered this role and turned it down, and one of them was Gwyneth Paltrow. And I was like, Gwyneth Paltrow doesn't play ugly.
No.
Like Jennifer Love Hewitt, they don't play ugly.
Mm.
Like, but Naomi Watts is like kind of not afraid to get dirty.
This movie comes out the same year as Mulholland Drive, I believe, like within a
Really?
year of
Same
each other.
year?
Just
Fucking
another,
hell.
just another film where she plays a beautiful woman who
Hmm.
gets fucking ugly. And
Yeah.
not just like makeup ugly, like
Like,
bodily ugly, like the contortions of the capability of the
yeah.
human body to display rot
Yeah.
kind of ugly.
Like unafraid to play somebody who is rotten on the inside and outside.
Yeah.
And that's something that I think a lot of like Hollywood actresses aren't willing to do.
Yeah. But then she goes to check on Aiden, but then there's a girl in his room. It's Samara. She grabs her arm. Rachel wakes up from this
Oh, it
nightmare,
was a
but
dream.
there's hand-shaped burn marks on her left arm.
Yikes.
And then she goes to check on Aiden for real, and he's not there. And she goes into the living room, and this dumbass is just watching that videotape.
Well, of course he knows.
Yeah.
Like Aiden is a young psychic that he's like, I don't know. I just know like he's just like, I don't know, something about this tape that I found in your bag.
If you have kids and you own guns,
Yeah.
I don't think I can convince you otherwise not to have guns in a home with kids.
Yeah.
You do you. That's just where we're at now. I will simply argue heavily first, don't have a gun, but if you're going to,
Hmm.
have a gun safe and keep that shit locked tight
Yes.
away from your kids. And the same goes for I don't think you should
Oh,
have haunted videotapes in a home with children.
well, I think there's a
But if
third
you
step.
do, lock
If
it
you
up.
if you do have a haunted videotape
Hmm.
slash gun, two, you keep your gun slash haunted videotape locked up. And three, involve everyone in the family with gun safety. Have a talk.
Yes.
Learn what that fucking thing is. Have them hold it when it's empty. Show them how it works. So that way, when they're fucking around with it, they don't accidentally, I don't know, shoot somebody slash pop it into the VHS just to
Yeah.
see what happens.
Yeah.
Third step, safety. Talk about it.
Yeah.
Demystify it.
Man, it's just so hard to make a good movie or good story at all if people are like intellectually and emotionally mature and
For
communicate
sure.
their needs clearly. It's
Well, and what I find I love about this movie is that we see I love it when Rachel says, would you describe me as gullible? Would you describe me as, you know,
Hmm.
easily led? And we know from the minute her character is introduced, she's not. She's my girl Friday. She's tough as nails. She's, you know, like she is logic, fast thinker. She's an incredibly capable intellectual character who sometimes misses an emotional beat,
Yeah.
you know, is not afraid to talk about feels, but
Uh-huh.
just it's not the first thing she thinks about, you know?
Agreed. Yeah.
And she has to, over the course of this movie, kind of come to terms with, you know, sometimes you gotta, it's not about understanding, it's about feeling or believing.
And it's about connecting with people. You know, she
Yeah.
does a job where she has to find an angle in which she can connect to people so she can ask the tough questions.
Yeah.
But she's not actually connected. She's not that close to her son. The choice to
With
have him
Noah.
constantly call her Rachel is a
Oh
really
my
big
God,
choice.
right?
But I think
Yeah.
it works for this movie because
Yeah.
it simultaneously lets us know I think something went wrong here in
Yeah.
your mothering, but it's not to say that you're a bad mother. It's just to say that part of it is the dynamic of this kid. So we feel also it's a sign of closeness that there's
Yeah.
that difference, but maybe you shouldn't be friends with your child is,
Friends are like almost like your kid's your employee, like your personal assistant.
yeah, or your roommate, you know?
Yeah.
And yeah, there's she's missing that extra, you're totally right. She's missing that extra emotional step to take.
Like you get the impression she's the kind of reporter before this movie started who would report on a horrible family tragedy and not give a fuck about the humans involved.
Correct.
And she has to learn the people behind the story because she's now part of the story. She's in the story.
Well, Noah calls her and
He's
he
freaking
believes her
out.
now because he saw his own face get distorted on that
He's taken
CCTV.
a lot of pictures of himself. Selfie.
I think because I had already seen this movie, but I'm curious for you, Cecil, or anyone else who, when they saw this movie for the first time, because I don't remember, were you shocked when she's like, he watched the tape? Who watched the tape? Our son.
I
And it's a
was.
real dum dum dum
Well,
moment. Were you
it
surprised?
it wasn't surprising. It's just you know when you kind of put a pin in something because there's the scene where we first meet Noah,
Uh huh.
like Aiden's leaving for school. Noah's walking to the apartment because Rachel's called him because she's watched the cursed videotape. And they have a silent scene where they just look at each other and then keep on walking. So
Yeah.
you don't know what the relationship is.
Yeah.
You know that they know each other? Do they not know each other? So it's interesting that they have to put a kind of check that box
Yeah.
so explicitly. You knew something was up, but you didn't want to say for sure.
Yeah. Well, Tuesday, day 6, the three of them get in the
Oh,
car together because they're gonna drive out toward that Moesco Island.
yeah. Well,
They're they're
we gotta put Aiden at
uh,
Auntie's house.
yep.
But he's got to draw a creepy picture for her first.
Yep. Yeah, he draws a
'Cause-
picture of the three of them as a family,
Mhm.
mom, dad, and boy. And Noah says, I don't think I would be a good father because my own dad was such a disappointment. And
And
he's
you
like,
could
but the
see
thing
this
is, I
kid
don't
being
want
like,
anyone else to be your father.
yeah, it's a conundrum.
Now, it is a conundrum. Love that line.
Like you're worried about being a disappointing dad because your dad was disappointing, but you're doing a thing that makes you a disappointing dad
Yeah,
by not being a dad, by
yeah,
just being Noah, the dude that wears flip-flops who lives on the other side of town.
yeah. You're only thinking about your dad and not the definition of the word disappointment. Like, what
Yeah.
does it mean to be a disappointment versus let me just think about my dad
Yeah.
and then avoid all problems.
And I think it's interesting that Noah asks Aiden, he's like, do you want me around more? And Aiden, being having the emotional maturity of like a 40-year-old, is like,
Mhm.
you can if you want. Do you want to be around more? I think
That
is the better question. Like,
right?
like this, if this kid doesn't end up being a psychiatrist,
Yeah.
I'd be shocked.
Uh-huh. Okay, so Rachel is saying, I'm going to get on the ferry. I'm going to go to that island. You, Noah, I need you to go to that psych hospital that we learned that
Yeah.
Anna was put in and find out
Yes.
what you can. We and because we have to split up because we do not have time for both.
Yeah.
We got to do both of these things, and I got 1 day left.
Yeah.
Which I think again, horror trope of let's split up.
Uh-huh. Usually it's a bad idea.
Usually it's a bad idea. They very clearly, in very few lines, state why you have to be
Yeah.
like this. Okay, so let's talk about Rachel's adventure on the fucking ferry.
This scene had me shooketh when I saw this in the movie theater. Like this was, and in retrospect, I will say, it seems a little silly when she goes up to that fucking horse. She's like, "Hey, buddy." I'm like, "Girl, don't be
Leave.
touching animals that are not yours."
No. And also, when you see it freak out, don't try to calm it down. Just walk away.
No. But from a technical editing standpoint, and we've not also talked about the Hans Zimmer score.
Hmm.
This score goes really hard. And this is one of the scenes that is like kind of heart pounding because of the editing, but it's also this like almost like viola arpeggio, like real low viola arpeggios, reminiscent of a Psycho-esque score, is kind of fucking dope.
What's crazy is I did not remember this scene from when I had seen this movie many, many,
Oh,
many years
really?
ago. Well,
This
and
is one that was like burned into my brain. This fucking it's honestly it's the fairy skidding and kind of
yep.
like it's not the blood, it's the hearing the foghorn and watching the fairy skid that I'm like that I could
Yeah.
not get out of my mind.
The I think for me, I think when I watched it originally, one, I was still shook by the fucking Katie's face in the closet. I
Sure.
was, and I
As
think
we all were.
also I spent the rest of the movie being like, "You just tell me when this is over." You know,
I don't like
so not like
this.
this scene is really fucking like this scene hit me hard this time because I had already
Yeah.
seen that girl's face many times
Mhm.
before and doing this movie. This it comes up in searches all the time. But this scene is tough because this horse starts freaking out, busts off of its chain,
Mhm.
out of its crate, metal case, charges at Rachel. People are trying to get it in control. It charges at Rachel on the ledge of the ferry, leaps
Like
over
comes,
her.
yeah. Hits its leg on the way down.
It's graphic. It's graphic, this animal death. Very graphic. And it's CGI. You
Yeah.
can see.
What's not graphic? It's it because we don't see
Well, no, you don't
like
see
a
like bone shatter.
like
I
we
mean,
watched The Cell and they just like Damien Hirsted that fucking horse. It's not that.
I mean graphic in that it shows you every step of its
Yeah.
process towards
Yes.
death because
Yeah.
it shows you the fall and like the clang of its leg as it falls down. And
You
if
see
you
it
know
trying to
horses,
get its head above water.
you know a broken leg is basically a death sentence for a horse. So to have it bang its leg is a really big moment
Yeah.
here. It falls down. It also seems to understand how did I get here when it's in the water because it's away from her.
Yes.
Because
Like, and
it's
that's the
scrambling
thing
for
that's so
life.
scary to me is that this horse is, I was thinking about like why riot police use horses rather than cars
Huh?
is because humans have a extreme fear of a large animal like a horse that is much more unpredictable in its
Uh-huh.
movements, and they're much more likely to stay back from a horse that is, I don't know, wild,
Yeah.
able to rear up. And when this horse is like standing on top of a car and like gets on its like Black Beauty on its two, like you realize why these animals are like primarily coded into our DNA.
Mm-hmm.
Like, because it's fearful and awesome at the same time. And I think people understand that that is something to be feared. A car, they drive a car into the middle of a riot and people just jump on it and flip it over because they know the car is not going to do anything that the driver won't make it do. But a horse,
Yeah.
primal fear.
Yeah. A car has a pretty set number of things to do. A car
Yeah.
is not going to rear up on you.
Yeah.
So it then gets dragged under the ferry
And would they all go running to the other side to see if the horse makes it?
and it gets ground up in the propeller blades. And all you see is the
You
water
just see
churning
blood
behind the ferry
with
and then it
blood.
turns red. And everyone fucking screams. And
Yeah.
somehow, recently, a couple months ago, a Delta flight had to return to its origin because
Mhm.
somebody shit in the aisle.
Yeah, I think I heard that. Yeah.
This ferry just ground up a horse
Yeah.
and it still is like, you know what though? We're
We
still
got to
heading
get
to
to
the
the island.
island.
And that was what was so scary for me the first time was the idea of like, this is just the introduction to spooky islands, you know?
Yeah. Okay, let's go to the Morgan farm. We're gonna meet Richard Morgan.
Hey there, Logan Roy.
Mm-hmm. Logan, no, is he? He's Logan.
Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. Okay, got all the Roy names
He's,
confused.
he's also the dude. Yeah, right. He's Logan Roy. And then also the, like bad guy from the X-Men
Oh
and also
yes.
from Autopsy of Jane Doe.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, we saw him in also the original Hannibal Lecter
Yes, in
in
Manhunter.
Manhunter. Yeah.
So good.
So he is like many of his characters, Grump that he plays
Yes.
that Brian Cox
Grumpy and
plays.
menacing.
Yep, grumpy and menacing, a
Like he
tad
might beat the
aloof.
shit out of you with a hook at any time.
He's like, oh, I've had so many journalists over the years write about the horse plague that whatever happened to our horses, and I don't know, like I don't know what else to write. Like, what's your
They
angle?
all ran away and they drowned.
Yeah, they all basically did themselves in. Maybe they went crazy, or maybe they just knew something. I don't know. And she's like, she pauses. Rachel pauses because she sees an oval mirror in the hallway that matches the mirror
Yep.
from the video, and she turns around and is like, "Do you know what this videotape is?" And holds it
Oh
up,
fuck.
and he is holding this hook.
Yeah.
Very, I
Like
know what you did last summer,
yes,
fisherman hook sort of
exactly.
thing.
Exactly. Candyman hook.
Candyman hook. Yeah, he's got the Candyman hook. Oh, when I told you that story about running into my neighbor in the hallway, I was also holding a Candyman
Were
hook.
you holding a
So
hook?
that might have been what she was
Oh,
alarmed
was
by,
that
and
what she was
not me
scared?
just standing still.
You're just standing facing a wall with a hook in your when your hook in your hand.
God damn, so
That's a
terrifying.
lovely way to meet the neighbors, Jeffrey.
I'm really
You should send
popular
her
in
a
this
Christmas
building.
card with a drawing of a creepy child's drawing with like the face X'd out for Christmas.
I want to make Christmas cards for myself this year of me and Robert and Reba, and I'm just gonna
Please,
scratch one. I'm just gonna
please.
scratch my own face out.
Yes. Yes. Absolutely yes. If
Uh,
I don't get one of those this Christmas, I'm gonna be real. I mean, I won't be mad, but I'll be disappointed.
okay, so he clearly knows what this tape
Oh
is,
yeah.
but he's like, I don't know. I got a lot of work to do to get today. I'm not interested
You
in
and your
watching it.
reporters, you don't realize we're people and bad things happen to people, and we're just trying to live our lives on a horse farm that no longer has horses, but we're still fixing the fences.
Yeah,
You
that's a
catch that one?
choice.
I was like, dude, you're like everything about him says living in denial.
Yeah.
Everything about him.
She's like, "Where's your daughter?" He says, "I don't have a daughter. Fuck off." Slams the door in her face.
Okay.
And this is the point where she looks at the drawing that little Aiden had made for her before they dropped him off at Auntie's house. And it's the three of them, Noah, Rachel, Aiden,
Hmm.
holding
Hmm.
hands, standing in front of a house. One, Aiden's face is scratched out.
Yes.
That's one. And then two, the house he drew is the Morgan house.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, so let's see how things are going over at the hospital. Love this clever cheat.
Yes.
It's such a noir mystery, classic
Yeah.
mystery story thing where you gotta kind of lie and cheat your way into the
Yeah.
building.
Like use all the cards you've got, and he knows he's a handsome white boy. So he's like, hey, nurse, I'm gonna lean over this counter. Yeah, I know you keep all the video records up there. I've been up there before. And the male attendant is like, dumbass, we keep everything in the basement. He's like, boom, thank you.
Yeah,
Information I needed.
he's like, "Oh man, you caught me. See you later." And the next thing we see is
Bye.
crowbar
Like crowbar into,
crowbar
yeah,
into the
yeah.
door.
Because honestly, thank you for making a horror movie in which people's regard to what is legal and what is allowed in relation to the well ghost coming to eat your face.
Uh-huh.
Because he's like, fuck that. We like, no, we're not standing on standards and practices here.
Yeah.
Like we're into the breaking into shit because we need information, not because we're asking nicely, you
Yeah.
know?
Me and my wife are gonna die in like 24 hours.
Yeah.
My son was gonna die 3 days after that or whatever
I don't
day
have
that was.
time to put in a request and
Nope.
wait for a reply.
I sure don't. Also, so he I don't quite understand why he didn't just take the file and leave, but he stays
Sure.
in the basement reading the
Yeah.
file. He learns, this is where we learned that Anne actually had a series of miscarriages, was unable to have a child. But then there's a note about a girl named Samara who was brought into this psych hospital.
Like they went away
Uh-huh.
and they came back with a kid.
Yeah.
Unknown, which apparently I'm not watching any of the sequels, but apparently that's the story of Ring 2 is kind of that process of where
Okay.
Samara came from, I think.
Gotcha. Yeah, and in his moment, he doesn't know much other than there seems to be a daughter named Samara, but we
Yeah.
don't know why. Back on the island, Rachel goes to see Dr. Grasnick. Love this character, love this
Yeah.
meetup. Dr. Grasnick looks a little alarmed when Rachel asks a very journalistic question of, can you tell me about the Morgans and their daughter? But then Dr. Grasnick softens up when Rachel's like, listen, the reason I am here
Yeah.
is
Yeah.
because my son and I do not live here, yet we keep seeing images of that girl. And that
Okay.
is the connecting tissue. Like that
Yes.
is the reason why Dr.
Yeah.
Grasnick is not pushing her away.
Okay. The Omen. I
Uh-huh.
would like you to look at The Ring
Yes.
as to how to present creepy, weird, unbelievable supernatural shit in a mannered, logical, and persuasive way.
The manner that priest in the Omen is that priest in the Omen is unhinged. Like he is
Absolutely.
deranged. There is no reason Gregory Peck needs to listen to that motherfucker at
No,
all.
no. If you come in hot, they're not going to believe you.
No.
But if you don't get to the heart of the matter and kind of express like this, the Antichrist is going to be born on Earth, and I think that it's my baby. Like, unless you get to the real heart of the matter, they will also not understand this the severity of the situation.
Yeah.
Thank you, The Ring, for presenting a character that can do both.
Uh-huh. Uh-huh. It's perfect. Okay, so Dr. Grasnick is like, haven't heard that name around here in a long
Yeah.
time. But she says, yeah, this is where we learned from Dr. Grasnick that one day this couple, the Morgans, went away, came back. They suddenly had this Samara child,
Oh yeah, yeah, yeah.
which was who was adopted, I guess. She hints at an
Um,
adoption.
mm,
Maybe?
I
No?
think what's weird in the Japanese version, it's implied that the mother Anna sort of communes with the sea and gets
Oh,
impregnated by like a sea demon,
that's right. Okay.
like that, and that's what creates like it's no, no, like it is of it's definitely Anna's daughter,
Okay.
but the idea of the patronage of the father becomes in question, which I think is this movie doesn't really do that as much. It's like I think in the sequels they talk about going to a fertility specialist that also is like kind of maybe involved in witchcraft or something.
Okay.
But I like the Japanese version, the idea that it's the sort of inverse of the, Joseph to Jesus kind of thing of
Uh-huh.
like here's this immaculate birth that now I'm the dad of.
Yeah.
But it's evil, so what do I do with this evil kid that's not even my daughter, but I'm suddenly living with?
Yeah.
Versus in this version, it's a little more like how could Richard Morgan be so terrible to his daughter?
Yeah.
Sure, she's evil and she projects burns images into people's minds and makes spirit tapes, but
Uh-huh. Uh-huh.
that's a hard jump.
And like any good mystery movie, any good noir movie has a great misdirect for the
Yeah,
solution of the film because the
yeah,
final reveal is so amazing because we've met Richard Morgan. He's
yeah,
terrifying. He
yeah,
also seems like a bad father. He
yeah.
seems like he did not treat that child well. He
And
seems
he
like he did
feels
not
he's
want that
real
child
guilty
around.
about something. Yeah,
And that girl is sent to the psych hospital where her mother was, but was not allowed to see her mother.
yeah,
And she's like, we see, we're gonna get to this videotape, right? But yeah. So it sets that up well that it's like, oh, these parents never really connected to their daughter, and that's
yeah.
the important lesson that you just need to understand people. Anyways, not true in the case of Samara.
No, because she's evil.
She is
I and I
pure
love and
evil.
I love the island doctor sort of implies she's like, the whole analogy of the cold. She's like, on this island, if somebody gets cold, we all get the cold, as in the evil that was leaking out of Samara,
Yeah.
other people, kind of like what you said, like there's a blast zone.
Yeah.
You might not be in the line of fire, but you pick up psychic shrapnel.
Mm-hmm. And so that's why Dr. G is like, that girl may still be at the psych ward. I don't even
Do
fucking
not
know.
care.
Do not
Do
care
not
because
care.
ever since she's been
She's
gone,
just
life has been better.
she's just out of our hair.
Mm-hmm. So Noah, he also learns there's a video on file, but when he
Mhm.
goes to kind of charm his way into the media room, the guy kind of lets him watch the video. But he's like, I'm gonna stand over your shoulder the whole time because I am very exacting about where I keep
Yep.
everything. And then
Can't
when
steal shit. Don't take my tape.
they open the file and find that video is not there, it was checked out by Richard Morgan back in December.
Uh-oh.
Uh-oh. Okay. Rachel goes back to Richard Morgan's house. No one seems to be home, Cecil. It's just dark and dead quiet.
He's
What?
upstairs doing shit.
Yeah, he's got things to do. He's got a media cabinet to build in the bathroom.
Oh my God, that fucking tower of insanity.
Uh, you know, it seems like overkill, literally overkill,
Yeah.
what he's doing. But this movie is in its depths. It wants to go hard between the
Well, and I
horse
and
and
I
Richard.
and I like I think that the death is kind of perfect. This electricity meets water
Yep.
are our two elemental things, and he like puts the bit on, like the horse bit is the
Yeah.
But also I want to talk about this videotape. I'm not always a fan of like, here's like, what was it, session number 9? I really liked because you got teased out information in a much more like, these things are usually kind of boring.
Mm-hmm.
Like it's not action packed.
Yeah.
And this one is like, you kind of get everything up, like creepy girls sitting far away. But I like the sort of the setup of this, the mise en scène, the actual like what's on the screen, I find awesome
Yeah.
because you can't see her. She's out. She's too far away for depth of field, right? So she's blurry. But there's a little monitor in which you can actually see just on her face, but her hair is covering her face. So you're not seeing, you're watching her through a screen,
Yeah.
which I think is amazing. And there's a placement of a cigarette in the very bottom of where the off-screen
Yeah.
doctor is drinking a glass of water and water again,
Uh-huh.
smoking a cigarette. And the cigarette smoke perfectly hits where Samara's face is. So
Yes.
not only is she out of focus, but there's like a smoke screen in front of her face.
Mm-hmm.
Come on.
So
That's
good.
fucking dope.
Yeah. I think one of the things, and I know I've seen people complain about this remake, in that the Japanese version, I don't think you hear the girl talk. I don't think Sadako talks even in the flashback. No, she
She does that psychic contest, right?
yeah, she does it. Yeah, maybe she does talk, but uh,
I don't
either
think she
either
does
way,
that. I
once
don't think she
she's
does. Yeah.
into hair in front of
Yeah,
face,
yeah, 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 yeah.
I mean, you're talking about like that is evoking like a long tradition of like yokai.
Yes.
And
Yes.
there's a very traditional or old folklore around
Hmm.
this
Hmm.
woman, this
Yeah.
this image of the hair hanging down. It's been around for a long, long
Like
time.
the wailing woman kind of
Yeah.
idea. Yeah.
And we don't necessarily have that in America. So
Hmm.
they're evoking the Japanese thing, the Japanese look of this character, but they don't quite, I don't think they quite nail it, because the thing about the original Ring is once the hair is in front of her face, you don't see any part of her except her eye at the very end. And
Yeah.
here
Yeah.
we constantly have shots of Samara's face, and some of the ideas that her hair has always been like this. It's just
Right.
she's just a hanging low sort of thing. Let me pause for a second
Yeah.
because I'm getting internet connection is unstable on my
I
end.
saw that, and you're back.
Oh, I am. Okay, great.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. No, it's corrected itself.
Okay,
Whatever
okay,
happened.
cool. Anyways, when we see her face later when she comes for Noah, it's all a very CGI, I would
Yeah.
say, based off of Reagan from The Exorcist
Oh, interesting.
looking face, which may
Yeah,
be more
yeah,
in
yeah, yeah.
our horror folklore
Yeah, yeah,
rather than, I forget the term but the wailing woman
yeah, yeah, yeah.
image from like the folklore of yokai. Anyways, that being said, it misses that creepiness factor,
Sure,
I think, on this
sure.
girl quite a bit. But I do find it interesting that they chose to kind of go with more of like demon face under the
Hmm.
hair. Yeah, so she's watching this video. We learn that this girl is kind of, oh, my mommy loves me, but daddy only loves the horses. Can I see them? And the doctor is repeatedly like, no, not till we figure out what's wrong with you.
You gotta be honest about.
Hmm?
She's like, maybe I just kill people with my brain.
Yeah, I don't draw the pictures. They just happen.
I find it interesting that like again, back to I love this idea of a psychic ability to be able to like create something out of nothing.
Yeah.
Like you just will something into existence,
Mm-hmm.
an image into existence.
Yeah,
I find really fascinating.
I do too. So they this video her video watching experience ends quickly because she
Yes, it
gets
does.
clocked across the head by Richard Morgan, who grabs the TV she's watching, carries it upstairs to the bathroom where he has a tub overflowing into the floor, hooks up that TV, plugs it in with a bunch of other TVs,
Uh-huh.
all of which are plugged into a power strip that is hanging around his chest.
Yeah. Which is connected to a metal horse bit
Uh-huh.
that he puts on.
Yep.
And I remember being like, again, with this movie, with kind of like leading you, but without telling you what's happening. And I remember seeing this movie, I was so afraid for Rachel.
Yeah.
And, you know, kind of with the like, he's our son thing of like, no, Richard Morgan isn't trying to kill Rachel, which is what we'd expect from a horror movie. No, he has a different motive. Like she's just in his way.
Yes. Yeah, he's
And the
there to
real motive
overkill
of
himself.
yes, but it's teased out very like you the first time you see him, he's got that the power strip around his neck, but you don't clock what it is until you see all the pieces put together.
Yeah. So, yeah, he fries himself in this tub and she screams, runs out of there, and Noah is
Noah.
arriving
Yep.
at this moment. And Rachel remembers earlier in the evening calling home to check on Noah and asking about why he drew a picture of the Morgan house in the family drawing he made. And he tells her in this phone call, and she remembers it at this moment, the girl that talks to him or that he sees all the time, she doesn't like the barn. The horses keep her awake. So let's go to the barn.
I love this image. This is actually some of the only golden light,
Uh-huh.
like non-green sickly light, is this scene, which I think is so important to kind of setting up our expectation that, we understand the movie. It's to save this child, to put her spirit to rest.
Uh-huh.
But also, can you imagine putting your kid on the top of a four-story barn with no guide rail? Like it's this image of like the faded Victorian school, like nursery
Uh-huh.
that's like up in a little picture window. I know Ari Aster
Oh
borrowed
yeah.
this shit for Hereditary.
Yeah. I was gonna say this is total Hereditary barn looking thing
You
here.
know, the idea of like a child's room out of place, and especially that it's like so high up and there's no guide rails, kind of makes everyone go, "Oh, danger!"
Uh-huh.
Because children play. And your child just falls into their
Yeah,
death.
there's no guardrails on this fucking
No,
loft that is
no,
25 feet up.
no. And it's the idea of we have this demon child or this child that it seems there's crazy bad things connected to her. We don't know what to do with her. Just put her out in the barn, but decorate her room with like a rocking horse and a music box and a creepy ass fucking little, 1950s TV.
Yeah. It's the worst escape room ever. Or maybe the best.
I think the best.
Yeah. Well, they see the chair that sits in front of the TV.
Yep.
This is another kind of we watch too much TV as a culture
Yeah, 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 yeah.
jab here where Rachel says, "Oh my God, he left her here all alone." He said, "Well, she wasn't alone," and points at the
She had
TV.
she had Mr. Rogers' Neighborhood
That's
to
right. But then they find this underneath the wallpaper, an etching or really a wood burning of a
yeah.
tree that is recognizable from the tape. But Rachel also realizes, no, I've seen that tree. It's over at the Shambling Orphan.
Shady Mountain,
Yeah, yeah.
Shambling Orphan, yeah, Shady
Shelter
Mountain
Mountain
Inn.
Inn. Yeah. And yeah, so we got to go to Shelter Mountain.
And she's now on final day.
So okay, so we're gonna learn in this scene that the well,
Yeah.
so that Samara was pushed down the well.
Hmm.
That's where she
By her
ended
mother.
up, and this well is at the Shelter Mountain Inn.
Yes.
So yeah, so that was the idea. But in the scene where Anna throws Samara down the well,
Uh-huh.
we can see the little hill filled with horses up.
Yes.
So it implies that this was all on the island at their horse
No,
farm.
I had a trouble with this. It doesn't really say. My guess is Anna Morgan takes her daughter far away to commit the murder.
I see. Okay. That makes way more sense because I was trying
And
to.
then there's a well, like it's not connected to the island at all. She has to get off the island because you don't want the body to be found.
Yeah. And
Somehow
later,
finds
this
yeah,
development built up around this
yes,
old well. Okay.
yes,
Yeah. So Rachel remembers seeing this tree lit up by the sunset when she first watched that tape. And she's like, "Oh, no,
we have until
we're done for.
sunset.
I'm fucked at sunset. This is when I watched the tape 7 days ago. That phone's gonna ring. I'm gonna be dead." He's like, he throws a fit, being like, "Cheer up,
Yeah, there's got to be something.
there's no I in team. You miss 100% of the shots you don't take." And he knocks over this vase filled with marbles, and all the marbles collect on the floor beneath the TV. Oh, there's a weird dip in the floor.
Oh, and
You know what we
beneath
should do?
that
Chop
carpet.
it up.
Oh my God, I don't think they're going to get their deposit back.
Absolutely not.
So this is another thing that was kind of cut for the I think cut for the movie is when she goes she meets the pick a card any card dude. When they go back, there's a sign that says like out of business, implying that that guy has now watched a videotape, which is impossible because she's taken the tape with her. But somehow
Oh,
it's like somehow there's some weirdy wibbly wobbly kind of thing of like now it's like
yeah.
they're tearing up the floor of something that is out of business, so it kind of makes it better
Yeah, yeah.
or more plausible that they're just like ranting and raving and screaming and shouting.
But out of business doesn't make a ton of sense without some context for why it
Right,
went out of
exactly.
business. Yeah, you're
Yeah.
right. Well, they chop up this floor. There's
Oh,
the
there's a
well.
well.
So the ring of
Ringu.
the ring of the video, the last thing you see before you die is the ring, and what it is a glance up, straight up from the bottom of a well, as somebody is putting the stone block back over the top, leaves
So
a tiny
it's
ring of light.
so it's not a Ring camera that turns on when you have food delivered.
Nope, nope. The last
Oh,
thing,
you see your Uber Eats driver before you die
that's yeah, you totally do. That's
on your
absolutely it.
Ring camera.
Yeah, you catch some neighbor snatching your Amazon package
Or a
from your
cat
porch.
just
Yeah,
like playing with moths
bing
on your
bong,
front
bing
porch.
bong, bing bong.
Yeah.
Okay, so couple of things here. This is the extremes of all of the big kind of quote unquote like death scenes or attack
Hmm.
moments. We've had the horse and we've had Brian Cox, but here we are like the Rachel and Noah leaning over the well. They take a rock, drop it down, do not hear it hit anything.
No.
And then because it is her time, all of the floorboards come loose, all the nails come out of the floorboards, the floor above them collapses, sending the TV rolling down a board, smacks right into Rachel, and knocks her down a well.
Yeah. I don't think she's getting up from this.
No, because one, that well is like 4 feet across, meaning she's gonna knock her head
Oh,
on
absolutely.
on a stone going
Yeah.
down. Two, even if you land in water, which she does,
Uh,
it is water only deep enough to come to her waist.
yeah.
So she just did a at least 30-foot dive
Yeah.
into three and a half
Into like
feet of
three,
water.
3.5 feet of water.
Even if that water is 20 feet deep, the impact of falling on water is pretty close to the impact of falling on ground. There is a thing called surface tension, which is why if you jump off a bridge, you're gonna die, most
Feet
likely.
first time.
Yeah.
Okay.
Just, anyways, this movie does not care. This movie is like,
No.
I need the big visual. I need you to
Yeah.
feel the impact of this. So she gets down below. I'm all right. I'm fine. Fine. She finds a fingernail. I know your favorite thing. A fingernail stuck in the stone wall.
Don't like it. Scratchy claw marks of her trying to get of Samara trying to get out.
And then she finds the hair floating in the water, and a hand grabs her arm, and then she gets the psychic touch connection flashback. Samara is creepily singing by a well. She's
Oh,
Blair
no.
Witching by a well, which is
Yeah.
the creepiest place to Blair Witch.
La, da, da, la, da, da, la, 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 la. Yes, mother. I love you, mother. You know I'd do anything for you, Samara. I loved you. All I've ever wanted is you.
I wrote choke me, goth mommy, on my notes. Mom definitely is like, look at all the horses. Aren't they pretty?
Look at
Isn't
the
it a
pretty
day?
horses.
Yeah, isn't it beautiful? Plastic bag over this child's head, chokes her for 3 seconds, and then pushes
Yeah, I
her
know.
down the well.
Yeah. Apparently, this was much longer. This is another thing that they had to cut to make it a PG-13 movie rather than R movie. Like,
Mhm.
this was a much more violent death in the uncut version.
I will tell you, most TV shows and films do not show you how violent choking is.
Yeah.
Because it
And
takes
how
a
long
while.
it takes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
But it's also important because we have to learn like the connective of like how long could a person survive down there?
yeah,
7 days
7 days.
until you die. Because she also had a phone down there. She's like calling from the well.
Yeah,
It's an actual landline.
it's an actual landline at the bottom of the well. So then, Rachel, knowing all of this, cuts back to the well and she is holding the pristine body of Samara in her white, dress and perfect hair and good skin. But then, all of the marks on Rachel's skin disappear. And
Oh,
Samara is just decaying into
yeah. She
um
melts into a
into
skeleton.
into skeleton, and it's like there we are. Okay, so plot wise, I'm not mad about like the exaggerated fall down the well and why she didn't
Hmm.
die. Like it's just what we
Fine,
already saw the
sure.
horse
We
death. You
get it.
can't really top it.
Yeah.
So I think the only thing that upset me here was if the rule is once you make a copy and show it to someone else, you're off the
Uh-huh.
hook.
Yeah.
So I do know the Japanese movie follows that same logic. In the original film, the well isn't that deep. It's just a matter of she just has to dig. She
Yeah, yeah,
she
yeah,
keeps
yeah,
trying to
yeah,
get the
yeah,
water
yeah.
out of the well, but
Yeah.
eventually finds the body, et cetera, et cetera. But the in here, why did Samara rip up all
Push
the
her down.
floorboards and push her down? I
Yeah, I
guess
don't think
just to
it's
show
related.
her, or
I don't think it's related to the curse at all.
oh, okay,
I think Samara is just kind of a asshole.
yeah, that makes
You
sense.
know? Like maybe I don't even think Samara really cares that her story get like like and the whole thing is like we have such a across many cultures the idea of the remains must be moved to a their spirit is at rest now. We've put them in a grave on consecrated ground is the story we've been told so often in ghost stories and
Uh-huh.
scary movies. So that's the movie we think we're watching,
Yeah.
which is such a great, be like, oh, yes, oh, we're such good people. We solved the mystery. We found her body. She will now go to a grave with a cross on it, and everything will be peachy keen.
Which is such an for a movie that you can take a strong, you know, media crit read
Yeah.
on a cultural shift crit. I mean, nothing says cultural shift like fuck your grand narratives.
Yeah.
And
Like
that's what Samara says. Fuck
put a
your
cross
grand
on it,
narrative.
don't put a cross on it, don't matter.
Mm-mm.
That's not the point. Jesus, God? No God.
No, we don't. I love that this movie does not give you church
Yeah.
at all.
Yeah.
It's not that I don't care about church or think that church is stupid or that you shouldn't include church in your horror film. I just mean that it is a pretty big default for most American films to deal
In the
with.
West, we really rely heavily on that. And
Yeah.
and I was actually thinking about like why I think this movie is so The Ring and Ringo, like Ringu are so, kind of iconic and pivotal in the horror
Hmm.
movie canon is one is the pacing, to be honest. It's like awesome.
Uh-huh.
And two is because it's not about this, what we're talking about. It's also not about violence. It's about sadness. And
Yeah.
I think that's where Japanese ghost stories are always so kind of timeless and evocative
Hmm.
is because it's not about a chainsaw killer or a knife wielding maniac. It's about somebody who is so sad that that sadness lives on after them.
Yeah. I think one of the grand narratives, if you will, of this century, of the 21st century, not that it hadn't existed beforehand, but in horror movies, a lot of the horror movies of the past, especially 5 to 10 years, but maybe
Sure.
15 or so, is the trauma narrative.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
If we
Yeah,
could just understand our trauma,
yeah,
we can defeat the
yeah.
ghost. And that's what
If
this movie is doing. It's subverting that trope that hasn't even
yeah,
become supremely popular yet. that it is saying, oh, it was a trauma narrative. This child
Yeah.
suffered a
As long as we
trauma,
can name the trauma
and we named the
is the
trauma, and
first
now we're
step
good.
to healing.
Yeah. And Samara's like, fuck your grand narrative. No,
Yeah.
I am just some wicked sea beast that
I'm
has no
pissed at
god.
all
Yeah.
of you.
Yeah, yeah. But we don't know that yet. We think we're all fine. But again, if you're watching a horror movie and the epilogue lasts
And it
longer
just
than
keeps
90
going.
seconds,
Uh-huh.
you're like, no, this is not the epilogue.
No. No.
Um, it's the next morning. Aiden is back or I'm sorry. Or well, actually, let's talk about Aiden and Rachel.
Well, I
Yeah.
love that like Aiden is kind of falling asleep watching Rachel and Noah hold hands. The
Yeah.
first and only sign of physical affection, and he kind of smiles and then nods off to sleep. So we're like, thank God these characters are like have gained something from this
Hmm.
roller coaster of a week.
Yeah.
Rachel takes time off from work, spends the night with Aiden. They wake up in the morning. She's like, hey, I don't gotta go to work. I helped that girl that was haunting your dreams. She's like, you helped her. This scene, everybody was shooketh in the movie theater. People
Uh-huh.
were like vocally talking. They were like,
It's my
back.
favorite.
See, this is where like I do miss the pre-COVID days of seeing there are certain movies that I would watch in movie theaters and certain movie theaters I would go to watch horror
Uh-huh.
films because certainly some were more fun than others. And also some like I don't need to see a horror movie on an IMAX theater, but I do love a like 34th Street in New York City, the
Yeah.
best fucking movie theater for horror films. Because
Yeah.
it's a broad spectrum of people.
Yeah.
So you get different kinds of reactions to the movie you're watching.
Yeah, because people are coming in from like Jackson Heights. People are coming in
All
from
over.
like Morningside.
New
People are-
Jersey, from
yeah.
yeah. And it
Fucking
was
Long Island. Yeah.
when this kid is like, why did you help her? People were losing their shit in the movie theater.
Yeah. Oh, I bet. It's so shocking. He's like, you helped her? You weren't supposed to. And she sees that Aiden's arm is covered in marks and his nose starts to bleed. So now we're at the, oh, you're at the,
He's still
like,
cursed.
you've got like 2 days left.
Yeah, he's still cursed.
At Noah's office, the TV just turns itself on.
Oh no.
So I've got to go sit 4 inches from the screen.
Oh my God.
Simultaneously, the phone is ringing, but we know it's Rachel calling to warn him.
Yep.
But he's like, can't stop staring at this TV. And here comes Samara through the fucking idiot box,
Yep.
soaking wet.
I love that she's in black and white
Yeah.
in the real world still.
Mhm.
I think that's like a really great detail.
Agreed. It's really good. Do we know if this was a digital effect or was this makeup?
Oh, it must have been. It must have been.
Yeah.
It looks too shiny to be.
You're right. You're right. Because
practical,
there's an effect on her. Yeah. Because she's still. Yeah. You're right. It's.
I mean,
gotta be-
I'm sure it's a combination of both. Is
Yeah.
probably the answer.
Yeah. And Rachel is driving
Driving
she's
like a
in,
lunatic past
like she's in
Pikes
fucking
Peak
Akira.
Market.
Yeah.
Whatever,
like
yeah.
just. She's driving absolutely crazy through
She's
town.
like, I need to get to that Jimi Hendrix music experience.
Mariners game starts in 13 minutes. So she she gets up there and finds his body in a chair. And just like with Katie at the beginning, we don't see his face.
Oh, I love it. Edge me, ghost daddy. Edge me, ghost mommy.
Oh my God. So but
We do see it eventually.
we will in a similar sort of I saw his face.
Yeah, yeah.
But Samara, we do see the moment Samara gets up on him, on Noah,
Yes.
and it is similar to the Japanese version, which is just a close up of the face covered in hair. But
Yeah.
in this one, the hair is open a little bit. It's just more like she's got the Gen Z center part, and
Yeah,
it is, and it's you can see her like Reagan like face, Reagan from not the bigger horror of
Ronald Reagan.
movie.
It's like
Reagan
Ronald
from
Reagan.
Exorcist. She's wearing a Reagan mask because
Yeah.
this this is the
Honestly,
prequel to Point
she
Break.
just looks like the girl who was the editor of our literary magazine in high school.
Yeah.
you
Yeah,
know?
she does. Anyways, so that's how she fries him. But when Rachel sees Noah's body, she screams and she is going to go back home to get to Aiden. But before she leaves, we do see her watch Beth, the young girlfriend
Yeah.
assistant, coming up the
Going up the
elevator to go to
elevator.
work.
Yeah.
Back at home, it's back to it's all pointless. It's helpless. I can't do
Yeah.
anything. But why did she? And she goes to burn the tape.
Yeah. She burns the original.
She burns the original, and she's like, "Why not me? Why?" But why? That's the one question I have to answer.
Yeah. What did I do?
She looks over and sitting under the couch, there's the copy of the tape that she made. It was
Oh,
the
fuck. We got to make a
copy.
copy.
Fuck. So
And she showed it to someone.
and she showed it to, so she takes Aiden to work, and we see a close up of the video making machine where she has Aiden's fingers and is making sure that he is pressing
Oh,
the buttons.
I like the fact that she's guiding his hand
Yeah.
is, again, I think it's like psychologically deeper than what, like, we get it, but also this kind of this thing of like, we teach our children
Yeah.
how to get by in the world for good or for bad.
We're just trying to survive. I'm
Yeah.
just trying to keep myself alive, my son alive. It's all I can do.
Yep.
And he says to mommy, to Rachel, she'll never stop.
Yeah.
She's like, I know, but he'll stop with us, basically.
We gotta recommend 10 friends to
Yeah.
send $10 to the top of the Ponzi scheme
Mm-hmm.
if we want to break even.
Yeah. I want to check out Samara's dietary supplements that she's making
Uh-huh.
us all try and sell to our
I
neighbors.
bet she has a Bitcoin.
Oh, I bet she does. You think she gets the evil pink Cadillac from all
Mhm.
of her? Yep.
Yes, absolutely.
And that's when he asks the question that you mentioned earlier, which is, so what happens to the person we show it to? The end.
Not my problem.
Yeah, there is no
But
specific
also
answer.
a great setup for a part two.
Great setup for a part two, but also as a standalone,
Yeah.
I love that because
Like,
it
this
gives you,
story is over. The
yeah,
curse, they've lifted the curse or passed the buck. The end of this chapter.
yes. And that's where I think it deviates very strongly tonally from the ending of the Japanese film,
Mm-hmm.
because that one has a very specific answer that is, I found darkly comic. Maybe other people found it super disturbing, but still, that's where it is. Cecil, shall we rate this movie?
Yes, let's.
Let's talk about horror approachability. How approachable is this movie if you're horror squeamish, like I was way back in the day? Well, I'm gonna give The Ring like 2, 3. Let's go
Oh my.
2. 2 out of 10 hotel surcharges for floor damage.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And not bloody. There's the blood in the water after the horse thing.
And
But
like a trickle of nosebleed.
a trickle of nosebleed, but that horse scene alone is just
Yeah.
not for the squeamish. It's the horror of this film, like you said, Cecil, is in the sadness. It's in the very creepy and very effective jump scares of
Yeah.
nightmare fuel faces,
Yeah.
nightmare fuel video imagery, and when it goes for the death, it goes for the biggest American horror movie deaths it can get. It goes in a way that, like the original Ring, I don't think I found as scary and as upsetting as this movie. I think
Agreed.
it's a better
Agreed.
film cohesively. I think artistically, I think it's so much more interesting what the original was doing, but I also think this is a scarier film because it digs into the American bag of tropes and
Yeah.
it does them all really, really well. So yeah, graphic animal, like detailed animal death, child murder, jump scares, suicide, child abandonment, mental health institution, prison sort of situation, and just the creepy fucking nightmare fuel faces. So let's say 2 out of 10 for approachability. To speak nothing of approachability, how do you rate this as a horror film overall, Cecil?
It's pretty high, I gotta say.
Yeah.
So this, one of the important things to remember about this movie is that this is kind of the movie that kicked off an entire decade of like Asian horror remakes. Like this movie inspired Hollywood to start making horror movies again, even though they weren't writing them, but they were taking them from other countries, which, but this was it.
Yeah.
Um, and again, I think like Naomi Watts, even though she wasn't the huge star at the time, but this is kind of what kind of catapulted her there. Like this movie was top notch for the
Yeah.
day. So for that reason, I would say 9 out of 10 drawings of me with a little black veil over my face.
Okay, let's figure out what movie we are going to watch next. You've got a scare die. I have a style die, and we'll roll those up and see what movie matches those two things. So, Cecil, on your scare die, if you roll a 1, our next movie's scare is a phenomenon, like a superpower. 2, a vampire. 3, a cryptid. 4, wild card. 5, isolation is our scare. Or 6, something witchy.
That's a 5.
Oh, we got right to that.
We
Isolation
put it
scare.
on, we take it off.
All right, you're going to match Scare of Isolation to the style that I roll. If I roll a 1, our next movie's got to be in black and white. 2, it's got to be school days, something around academia or academic things. 3, this is a new one, Not for the Squeamish. This was suggested by Patreon user Cal. Like, what if you tried to find a 1 out of 10 approachable movie on your dice?
Let's see what happens.
So we'll see. If I roll a 4, it's got to be from the 2020s, 5 from the 1980s, or 6, it's got to take place in the American South. Let's see what I got here. Oh, I'm trying a new thing of rolling it in a bowl and it just skipped out. Hang on. All right, try that again. I got a 3. We did double ones again, or double first
Put it on,
weeks.
take it off.
Good Lord. We did this before a few weeks ago, I think also with another Patreon suggested style.
But I gotta say, we have some strong contenders for isolation and Not for the Squeamish. Strong contenders.
I bet. Oh, I bet we have some really upsetting ones here. Okay, so Cecil and I have written down a few movies, but also we have lists over on Letterboxd. We're at Random Horror 9 there, and you can see all of the possible die roll matchups there and leave comments on those lists to tell us movies we might be missing. So, Cecil, let's talk about the ones we wrote down here. So, Isolation meets Not for the Squeamish. We've got Cabin Fever, Eli Roth.
You know what's interesting? I watched this movie when it came out and was like, oh my God, what is horror movies? I understand why people don't like horror movies of this decade.
Uh-huh.
But I have not seen it since, and I'm awful curious to go back.
Another one, I think you put this on there. This is a kind of part of the new French extremity filmmaking, Calvaire.
Yep. Like what happens if we go to the woods and the creepy village of people who are killers, I think. Something like that. What could go wrong?
Hold on just a second here. Let me pull up this. I think I put this on here. I'm trying to remember. There's a movie called The Ruins.
I put this on here. This is a horror movie. I've seen this too many times. But it perfectly fits this role. A group of American tourists go to Mexico and they get told about a really cool temple.
Oh, yes. Okay.
And let's just say they cannot leave. The rest, you must watch the movie.
I put Saw on here. I don't know that Saw 1 is the most squeamish of all the Saw movies. I've seen
it's pretty squeamish.
It's pretty squeamish. I've seen different answers about that because I think there's some that are more extreme. I also put this one on here. I don't know about this one, The Mist.
Ooh, The Mist is definitely not for it's a little more it's jump scare, it's got people it's got creepy Christians, it's got monsters. It also has the saddest ending ever committed to film. So for that reason, I'd say Not for the Squeamish.
I put When Evil Lurks. This is by the Argentinian director of Terrified. When Evil Lurks it's everything. It is gross out. It is
I've not
scary.
Seen
it is tragic. It is out of nowhere upsetting. It's really good.
And it takes place in an isolated kind of isolation fits.
Yeah. It doesn't
I don't know
always
anything about it.
Yeah, it definitely begins in like rural Argentina.
Okay. Okay,
Yeah.
sure.
So we also have The Devil's Rejects. I haven't seen this. Uh,
I've watched it once. I remember thinking, you know what, we're gonna give after watching this, I think we're gonna give Rob Zombie a rest for a minute.
uh-huh.
But it's definitely of the like gritty, grimy, you know, has the vibes of a Texas Chainsaw Massacre
Yeah.
movie.
Oh, Antichrist or Lars von Trier.
I mean, what happens when you take your couple's therapy to the woods and the devil in the guise of a fox is your marriage counselor?
I never want to watch this movie again, and I absolutely want to watch this movie for the show.
I know,
Because,
because we'd have to actually talk. Like, I watched this movie and was like, thank you and good night.
yeah, this is one of those, like, here, this is disgusting. You have to try it.
Yeah, absolutely.
And then finally, this is another Eli Roth, The Green Inferno.
A group of Americans go to South America to, film a documentary, and they're cannibals.
Oh, yes, this is kind of the cannibal
Cannibals.
Holocaust.
Yeah, kind of
Yeah.
like, and I actually kind of liked it. I saw this when it came out, and I didn't mind it. Like, I
Mhm.
think it takes a lot of the problems with the original and kind of updates it for a
Uh-huh.
more palatable audience. It's still an Eli Roth joint, so approach with caution.
Boy, he does have a lot of movies that are like, here's a bunch of Americans who should not be where they're at.
Absolutely.
Okay, those are the movies we wrote down that came to our mind immediately, but let's see what folks over on Letterbox had to say. We have quite a bit here. So Cecil, you
Okay.
want to pull a few of these out and see what you think?
Yeah, absolutely. Benjamin Montague recommends Michael Haneke's The Seventh Continent. I've not seen this one. From 1989, deeply, deeply upsetting depiction of social isolation. The plot centers around a family of three who tell everyone in their life they're moving to Australia. Spoiler alert, they are not, and become progressively more reclusive while the outside world does very little to pull them back in. Interesting. They say I've been wanting to revisit this one because I loved it. It's tough because, man, it earns that 1 out of 10. I love that. That's the spirit we're looking for like
Yeah,
Not for the Squeamish. Of
yeah.
I watched it. I don't ever want to watch it again, but fuck, this movie should be talked about or deserves to be talked about.
Michael Haneke and Lars von
Lars
Trier.
von
Yeah,
Trier,
but right there, those
cut from
types
the
of
same
filmmakers.
cloth. Yeah.
Yes.
St. Nua, Saint Nua
Sure.
recommends Straw Dogs, which is a movie I've heard a lot about, but I've never seen, from 1971. Dustin Hoffman, Susan George play a couple who return to her hometown to get some peace and quiet while he works on an advanced math grant. Quickly, he is ostracized by the local community and things get worse. Super hard to watch. Definitely look at the trigger warnings list. Unapproachable and isolating for sure.
Mm.
Yeah, I've heard this one's a tough watch. We've got some secondings for Antichrist for When Evil Lurks. Squin recommends High Tension.
Hmm.
One of the movies that kicked off the sort of French extremist movement, a great movie. I don't think it's available right now because I had that same thought, Squin, but I think it is unavailable to watch at the moment. Cat in the Brain recommends Cannibal Holocaust. Um, and the Cannibal Holocaust would fit the bill, but I'm not sure you guys should be subjected to it. I've seen it. It's not my favorite. I'd
Uh,
rather watch The Green Inferno, but
yeah.
hey, thank you for throwing it out there. Bella Happy Bow recommends Revenge from 2017.
Mm-hmm.
A young woman is raped, squeamish but not graphic, and left for dead in the desert. She recovers and seeks revenge. Has a squeamish level of violence, a feminist take on the genre from Coralie Fargiat of The Substance in her directorial debut. I've not seen this one. I've heard a lot about it. And again, like revenge horror is a real genre in the horror film
Yeah.
industry. And I think it's interesting to see a female directed, female
Mm-hmm.
helmed version of that. King and Commodore recommends The Collector from 2009. Desperate to repay his debt to his ex-wife, and ex-con plots a heist at his new employer's country home, unaware that a second criminal has also targeted the property and rigged it with a series of deadly traps. So
Nice.
it's like Home Alone. but for horror. I don't know, maybe recommends Wolf Creek from 2005. Three backpackers,
Oh
desert roads
yeah.
of Australia. Their car breaks down in the middle of nowhere. They accept help from a benign seeming local, and things take a turn, and they find themselves hunted by a sadistic killer.
Oh my
I've
God.
heard quite a bit about this film. Um, Matt E. Parka recommends Speak No Evil of 2022. The Danish family visits a Dutch family. They meet on holiday.
Oh
Supposed
yeah.
to be an idyllic weekend, slowly starts unraveling as the Danes try to stay polite in the face of unpleasantness.
Hmm.
I think this definitely has a like not for the squeamish for maybe a different reason than some of these others that are more violence driven. I think this is for the like uncomfortableness that
Yes.
European horror does so well.
Yep.
Jazz Akai recommends Martyrs 2006 or 2008 and
Oh
also
yeah.
The Last House on the Left from 1972. Two very different, but I'm sure very interesting.
I wasn't sure
Um,
how isolated Martyrs was because I haven't
I don't know,
seen
I've
it,
not seen it.
but I
Yeah.
hear it is one of the most disturbing movies.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And then Last House on the Left is, of course, Wes Craven, like, I think Wes Craven's first film, one of his first, about a group of baddies who rape and murder a young girl, and then her family gets revenge based on um, the Virgin Spring film by
Oh,
that
okay.
famous man,
um,
famous Swedish man.
yes.
Uh-huh.
Wolfgang Amadeus Mozart.
That's right, absolutely. Let's see. Sorry, scrolling through some repeats. Fifth Hammer recommends The Dark from 2018, a murderous undead girl slash ghoul. Oh my God, if that's not
Uh-huh.
somebody's
Love that.
undead girl ghoul, haunts the remote stretch of woods where she's was killed earlier. And one night she discovers a blind boy in the trunk of one of her victim's cars. Her decision to let the boy live throws her solitary existence into upheaval. Sounds interesting. Sort of
Hmm.
a girl ghoul with a heart of gold.
Love it.
Half Price Horror recommends The Beach House from 2019. Two couples in an isolated vacation house outside of tourist season. There's a scene with a jellyfish I defy you to watch looking straight on at the camera.
Love it. Thank you, Half Price Horror, for that.
I, I'm intrigued. Okay, I'm going to do two more. Happy Little Yarn recommends Isolation, a film with the title of the thing we rolled. A
Perfect.
group of people get stuck on a farm where a cow fertility treatment has gone wrong and they must fight against carnivorous cow fetuses. More serious than it sounds.
Okay.
Listen, I trust you.
Uh-huh.
And finally, Kate recommends Deliverance.
Oh
Both
yeah.
social and literal isolation, several stomach turning scenes, and it sticks with you.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
I haven't seen Deliverance. I wasn't sure how extreme that movie got. It looks very
Is pretty
uncomfortable.
extreme.
Okay. So what's standing out to you right now of all of these?
Oh,
I
goodness
thought we had a
gracious.
pretty good list, but we got some good
I
suggestions from
know.
folks.
Oh, man. You know what's interesting? A lot of the movies on this list are movies that are not, maybe not kind of the Eli Roth Saw, 2000D era, or not,
Uh-huh.
like are movies that are maybe not the ones that I personally revisit, but I think it's important to watch for the
Yeah.
horror canon. We also have a lot of sort of European extreme films on
Yes.
here.
Yeah, because we definitely are getting into a little bit of torture porny sort of
Hmm.
era of
Hmm.
filmmaking and the new French extremities in the
Yeah.
90s and 2000s.
Like, how far can we push the genre and also just filmmaking? How far can we push what people are willing to watch on screen?
Yeah.
I think a lot of some of these are kind of more of the like make me feel uncomfortable, and some of them are more sheer amounts of blood and violence.
Yeah.
Like what makes something uncomfortable or what makes an audience not for the squeamish? We know is very subjective.
Yeah, yeah, that's a good question because like I've definitely heard from people who are like, I don't have an issue with gore. Like if a movie's gory,
Yeah,
I'm not worried about it.
because you kind
When
of
it gets
become
into other,
desensitized
yeah,
to it after a
it's
minute.
tragedy. For me, it's I think it. I think I've really hunkered down on shit that is wherein people are just in a very very uncomfortable situation. You know,
So in that case,
like funny
something,
games is like really hits all of my lack of approachability sort of bones. You know.
I mean, in that case, then Speak No Evil sounds
Oh
more in
yeah.
that direction
Hmm.
of the like, get out of the house, but stop being polite about it, you know?
We also have
Um,
movies like Antichrist and the Seventh Continent, which are more of that like masters of the craft that build films that
yeah,
make the audience very upset.
yeah, yeah. Oof.
I mean, we could do
And it's also like, Jeffrey, do we want to watch a movie that I've seen that you've not, that you've seen that I've not, that
uh-huh.
neither of us have seen, or that both of us have seen, you know?
Yeah, and I think the question is like I'd
And
love
I would
to
say,
and we also have horror homework, which you kind of mentioned earlier, like
yes,
of
we do
the
have a bit of
yeah,
horror homework
there's
here.
Saw is like horror homework, right? Like Saw is an important like it's a huge
Yeah,
franchise and
yeah, yeah, yeah.
in that way. Um
This is tough. Um, I
Last
bet we
House on
could
the
get,
Left is horror homework too.
absolutely.
Yeah.
And it's, woof. I saw it in my youth, and
Hmm.
it was one that I was like, I don't think I ever need to watch that again, but I
That's almost
will
the title
for this
of
show.
this style is I
Yeah,
don't need to see this ever again.
but I will
Yeah.
if I must. Okay, I think we should put six on a die,
Okay.
and maybe kind of pick two from each of these three different versions of what makes a horror movie squeamish.
So
So, like two bloody ones, two awkward ones, and two, um, I don't know, visceral art house films. Is the only way I can
yeah.
describe it. You know?
Okay, so we could do uh we could say Antichrist, which we put on our list,
Okay.
and the Seventh
Seventh
Continent, which
Continent.
Benjamin Montague
Yep.
suggested.
I think
I
that's
think
those are two good ones.
let's do
Yep.
that one and two. And then
Oh, bloody. Okay, let's do the two bloody ones. I would say,
Martyrs? High
ooh,
tension?
I was gonna say Revenge
Oh, yeah.
and Cabin Fever.
Yep. Who recommended, let's see, Revenge?
Revenge was Bella Happy Bow
Okay.
or
I
Bella
think
Happy
Revenge
Bow.
would be great. I think that's a really good one to
Because I
put on
think,
here.
like,
Yeah.
listen, I mean, I love the substance, and I'm really curious to see Coraline Farget's earlier work, first work.
Let me do real quick here. Also,
Oh man, but like Calvert, Wolf Creek.
oh yeah, we have the yeah, Wolf Creek is interesting. That's an Australian
Oh,
film,
that's a
right?
good one. Can we put that one on there too?
Wolf Creek?
It comes up so many times on so many lists. I'm really curious, and I feel like it is going to be not for the squeamish.
Mm-hmm. You haven't seen Seventh Continent, right, Cecil?
I've not seen Seventh
And you've
Continent,
not
and
seen Revenge or
I've
Wolf
not seen
Creek.
Revenge, and I've also not seen Dippity Dop Dip Dop um, When Evil Lurks.
Oh, and I've seen that one. So maybe that's we want to try that as our sixth.
Sure.
As
And I think that's like, and it's, for me, after watching The Ring, a movie that I've seen quite often, I'm in the mood to watch a new film,
yeah.
for me personally.
Okay, I'm gonna tell you this list, and then you tell
Okay.
me if there's anyone you want to replace based off of I don't want to watch that again,
Okay. Sure.
or I think I found a better one. But one, Antichrist. Two, The Seventh Continent. Three, Revenge. Four, Cabin Fever. Five, Wolf Creek. Or six, When Evil Lurks.
I
Anything you
think
want to
I
replace?
think that's a solid list. I think that's a solid list.
All right, I think I'm a go for rolling now. So let's see what we got here. All right, I'm gonna try my little bowl. I got a five. We're watching Wolf Creek, Cecil.
Okay. I think I have faith this is going to be a good combo for this role.
And that's from, I don't know, maybe, thank you for the suggestion of Wolf Creek. Let's see if we can hit that 1 on our squeamish approachability scale for Wolf Creek.
Whee!
I'm gonna double check and make sure it's available. And it is. Great. Wow. All right. Well, brace yourselves, everyone. And thank you all for listening. Thank you, Cecil, for talking with me. If you have thoughts on The Ring or ideas for other movies that would have been good, Isolation and Not for the Squeamish, let us know. We're at Random Horror 9 on Blue Sky, Instagram, and Patreon. And on Patreon, we have public discussion threads of each and every episode, and you don't have to be a paying member to participate. And watch Wolf Creek from 2005 with us this week. Or don't, and just come back next Tuesday for that new episode. Have a restful night with no distorted driver's license photo or nothing. Boo.
Ooh.